Barlow?
Yes, commissioners, make sure the microphone's on. Ms. Matias, we are live, we are streaming. You may proceed with the public review session.
Good morning. This is the New York City Board of Standards and Appeals Public Review Session for November 19th, 2024. We'll begin with the zoning calendars, continued hearing items. Item number 13, 2022-23 BZ, 1520 East 56th Street, Brooklyn.
Hi, and please note for the record that Commissioner Sheta is absent.
Thank you, Council. Commissioner Shetter will not be joining us today.
At the last hearing, board needed more information to meet finding D and also clarification regarding the zoning floor area in the attic. Applicant has made its submission. Can you hear me? Applicant has made a submission in response to the comments. We have a revised set of plans, which graphically shows the areas that would be exempt from zoning floor area. Applicant has also was asked to delete any reference to ZHO, which has been done. With regards to finding D, which is the common ownership, applicant has provided its response stating that, quote, subject site existed in its current configuration separate and apart from all adjoining lots, except that from 1976 until 1998, the subject lot was in common ownership with the adjacent lot 57. In 1998, lot 57 was acquired by a separate property owner, and the applicant states that the narrowness of the subject lot predates the common ownership of the two properties. The abutting lot 57 contains a semi-detached home that was built in 1920s. So what I did was I looked at the applicable zoning resolution section from 1961 and 2016 to see the compliancy of the building that's on lot 57. It's a grandfathered building, so it definitely was grandfathered in terms of floor area, yards, but I just did a quick check. So in terms of the lot area and the lot width of lot 57, it is more than the required amount of lot area per 1961 zoning resolution and also 2016 zoning resolution. So the removal of the subject lot does not create a new level of non-compliance. The existing FAR exceeds the maximum permitted FAR of 0.75, and that predates the 1961 zoning resolution. And the front yard depth and the side yard depth are also non-complying, which also predates 1961 zoning resolution. And so the build, I hear an echo.
I don't hear any
echo.
No. Turn off your mic. Can you turn off yours?
No, that shouldn't. I think it's coming from the door, but there's nothing we can do.
Sounds good on my end.
Hmm?
Said it sounds good on his end.
It sounds good. Okay, then
Yeah,
that's
I
fine.
didn't hear anything.
Okay. As I mentioned, the building that's on lot 57 is a part of a semi-detached building that was built in 1920s. And the Sanborn map that has been provided by the applicant from 1930s onwards to 2006 shows that there has been no change to the existing building footprint. So also as stated by the applicant and based on the recent appeals case of Houston Street, the subject site would qualify as a pre-existing small lot per 2333 definition. That is, it was owned separately and individually from all other adjoining tracts of land, both on December 15th, 1961, and on the date of the application for a building permit. And based on that, DOB had issued in 2007 a new building permit for an as-of-right one-family home on the subject lot. So upon looking through this analysis, I've come to the conclusion that the development of the subject lot will not increase the degree of non-compliance on lot 57 that pre-existed 1961. and it was grandfathered, but for the brief period of the common ownership. So I'm okay with finding D with regards to that. So those were the two hold up, and I'm satisfied with their submission. I want to hear from the other commissioners and what they think of it. Vice Chair Shibeta.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Otley Brown.
Sorry, could Vice Chair repeat comments?
No, I'm sorry about that. I did turn off my mic. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
Can you repeat, please?
Thank you for your thorough review. I agree with your statements and I'm satisfied with this application.
Thank you. Commissioner Otley Brown.
I'm also satisfied with the response they gave to addressing the brief period of co-ownership of the adjacent lot and this lot, and how it would not have led to them being able to develop the lot in tandem because there was already an existing building on there. So I'm okay with it. I feel like they have met the D finding, and I have no further questions.
Thank you. I have Commissioner Sheta's notes. He didn't have any additional comments on this. Commissioner Yoon.
Thank you. I have no comments.
Okay. Let's go to the next case.
Item number 14, 2024-03BZ, 117 Spencer Street, Brooklyn.
Okay, just one second. At the last hearing, board wanted more clarification regarding the finance and floor area calculation. Applicant made its submission. Please note, environmental review is closed, SECRA is closed. Regarding the revised plan, I have to say I'm a little frustrated because this has been repeated already once and I feel like I'm mentioning it again. So before I get into my notes, just on the environmental, I just want to bring it to everybody's attention that environmental notes have been added to the plan. So regarding my comments, dwelling unit number 2 is still showing 2 mechanical rooms on each floor. No justification has been provided for needing 2 43 square foot mechanical rooms when the building is going to be fully electric. Also note, the revised plan does not have any laundry rooms for any of the dwelling units. As was stated at an earlier hearing, laundry room, unlike mechanical room, are not waived from floor area. So to ensure that the floor area is being deducted per zoning regulation, add a note to the mechanical room that says it shall not be used used for any use that accounts towards floor area, including laundry and storage. Similarly, since the site is not in a zoning district where quality housing is applicable, applicant cannot apply 50% deduction for daylights in the corridor. So 117.8 square foot needs to be removed from the deduction. And it was also stated at the last hearing, this is a manufacturing zone. So we are permitting a residential use. That does not mean you can apply all of the residential regulations here. In manufacturing zoning, you're allowed to waive the floor area, and that is being permitted, but not quality housing. So remove that application from the analysis and revise the zoning analysis. So in addition to 117.8 square foot plus 48.47 square foot of mechanical space on the 4th floor, the total zoning floor area will reduce to 7,334 square feet, which still keeps it within 2.93 FAR. But I want to be very particular because I do not want this to become a standard which is going to be used for future cases, because that's not the correct way to go about it. I'm finding, as I said, I find this very disturbing of a trend, and it affects the actual zoning floor area proposed and analyzed for neighborhood character and financial. I also wonder if the lack of a laundry room in its spacious dwelling units, condo dwelling units, affects the financial comps. I'm just curious, because it would be considered a basic standard amenity unless you put it under your kitchen sink, next to your kitchen sink, that is. I looked at the revised financial that has been provided, but I think most of the questions came from Commissioner Otley Brown, so I look to hear from her. And the the revision of the zoning analysis, I said, has to be carried out, and the quality housing deduction has to be eliminated, and as well as the mechanical room on the 4th floor. And note needs to be added to all the floors stating that all mechanical rooms shall not be used, and that counts towards floor area, including laundry and storage. Vice Chair Shibata.
I do have one additional question with regard to the community board. I'm not sure if we received anything from them. I know that all of our staff has reached out. Has anything come in, or I asked the applicant if they did meet with them or not in September, and what were the results?
My last note says that applicant was scheduled to present on September 11th to the community board. I'm just going through my notes. Did we receive anything?
I didn't see anything in the file.
I did reach out to the community board on Friday, I believe. I'll find the communication, but they didn't respond.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Those were your,
And the rest is financials, which I'll leave open to Commissioner Otley Brown.
okay. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Otley Brown.
So I feel like they answered all of my questions. They basically, I needed clarifications and more narrative explanation for the reason why they made certain decisions. So to me, they clarified that the square footage that was used for both the as of right was going to be 2,500 gross square feet, and it was going to be leased as 2,500 gross square feet, and that the proposed was based on 10,764 gross square feet with a sellable area of 7,919 square feet and 3 apartments. And based on that, I signed off on the financials as having been corrected and clarified. I really wanted them to talk more about the residential sales and why they were only using apartments based on their square footage. And they talked about how difficult it was to find comparables for such large apartments, and that they couldn't find in the area townhouses that were large enough to be able to base their prices on. So what they did is they focused in on the average square footage and found comparables that would match up with the average square footage, and then adjusted that upwards for the larger apartment and downwards for the smallest apartment on the top floor. And I felt that that was probably the best that they could do. And it's only 3 apartments. So I accept that explanation. And as it stands with that gross square footage and that sellable square footage, I am fine with the financials. If any of your comments leads to a major adjustment in the net residential sellable space, then I would expect them to make adjustments in the financial. And I'll review them at that time. But as of now, I have no further questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Yoon.
Oh, do you want Commissioner Sheta?
Commissioner Sheta didn't have any additional
Okay.
comments.
Okay, I had the same questions as you. It's not just the daylighting deduction, but it's also the corridor density. That's a quality housing
Right.
deduction. And the chair was really clear about making sure that all of the quality housing deductions had to be removed. So I'm not sure why those were maintained. I also questioned the mechanical spaces. There's no mention of it despite us asking about it last time. And then the only thing I had on the financial report is I think the same typo is there from the last time, which is on page 2 in the summary that cites a different capitalized value and development cost number for, I think, the as of right. I think it's just a holdover from the last time I mentioned it at the last hearing. Those were my comments on this round.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 15, 2024-19BZ, 5802 Northern Boulevard, Queens.
Just going through my. Okay. At the last hearing, board had asked for clarification on the proposed plan and had questions regarding finding D on the, which is regarding site ownership, common ownership. An as-of-right plan has been revised, and the zoning calculation specifically. And it still shows that it is less than the predominant built-up FAR of 1.65. The proposed plan also has been revised. Environmental notes have been added to the plan. I have one question, note regarding the on-street charging station that has been added to the plan P001. It reads, there shall be no parking permitted in front of the two proposed charging station. I think this would be contrary, because you need to park there to be able to charge. So maybe a different language needs to be considered to allow for e-vehicles that want to charge to be able to park on the street. I do not know if DOT has some standard language. Just look into the language that is being proposed. Floor area to be used for the showroom has been demarcated, which was asked at the last hearing. From the drive-through area. So moving on to the finding D, applicant has provided a chain of ownership title and for the subject lot and the abutting lot 40. Both sites were under different ownership since 1961. So I'm satisfied with this application. I just want the applicant to revise the language regarding the e-charging. And I think I just want to make sure all the environmental notes have been added, especially the E designation for hazmat and the 28 dBA noise attenuation. Ms. Benke, can you please confirm?
I will check on that. I'm not sure if they're added yet. We were going to request the e-designation number once the hearing is closed, but I'll check if there's notes. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. So those are my comments. Vice Chair Shibeta.
Thank you, Chair. No comment.
Commissioner Otley Brown.
I have no additional comment.
Okay. Commissioner Sheta didn't have any additional comments. Commissioner Yoon.
Thank you. I had no comments.
Okay. All right.
Item number 16, 2024-23BZ, 334 Douglas Street, Brooklyn.
So we received a community board letter of approval. The letter also states that community board has repeatedly voted to affirm affirm at every opportunity that more housing units need to be built as quickly as possible, and denying 334 Douglas's application would only show the production of much needed housing units. At the initial hearing, board had raised comments regarding findings A, B, D, and E. So applicant made its response. With regards to the as-of-right floor plate, that was a question that was raised. I think the applicant's response was very clear. It was very helpful in understanding how they arrived at the floor plate depth, and thereby having to maintain a deeper rear yard, even the 15 is required. So I was satisfied with that explanation. With regards to the proposed plan, applicant again has provided I thought a clear justification regarding the need for maintaining a 19-foot deep rear yard, and that a 19-foot deep rear yard would allow for an even distribution of floor area throughout 8 floors, and a residential rear yard of 18-foot depth with an 11-foot 6-inch setback on 8th floor would have added to the construction cost. Though I think we haven't done the analysis, so I cannot vouch for it whether that's true or not. Revised findings were provided. So starting with the uniqueness finding, uniqueness study has been has been clarified. It is much improved. And the narrative shows that the analysis actually shows that initially when we were reviewing the 37 narrow and shallow lots, and of those, there are 5 remaining shallow and narrow lots that front on narrow streets and that are not commonly held. And some of these 5 lots are even shallower and narrower than the subject site. I would say that these 5 sites, while may be considered a potential development site with similar hardship, the only exception to the subject lot is that these 5 sites already have residential homes with units. Some of those are 1-family homes, some of those are 3-family homes, 2 to 4 stories. So and we have seen cases where if there are about 5 or so sites, uniqueness doesn't have to be the only one. We have accepted that. So I was satisfied with the findings and the clarification that was made. With regards to the financials, they made a revision, but it hasn't changed much of the returns. So I want to hear from Commissioner Otley Brown regarding the financing on this part. With regards to self-created, applicant states that a sliver lot did not apply prior to the rezoning. Only in certain residential districts, sliver law is applicable and is not applicable in manufacturing district. And prior to the Gowanus rezoning, site did not have any height limits other than the standard height and setback and sky exposure plane that was applicable in manufacturing districts. So I do think the cutoff point of using the sliver law as a way to justify the ownership makes sense. So I found the justification very compelling. In addition, the applicant also has provided a title of ownership chart, and it shows that the subject site was held separately since 1971, and the sliver law rule came into effect in 1983. So the subject site was held separately from the abutting lot since the enactment of the sliver law rule. So I was very satisfied with that argument, and I think it meets, I therefore believe it meets finding D. And apart from finding B, which I'm waiting to hear from Commissioner Otley Brown, I think that in this case, the applicant has met, in my opinion, A, C, and D. And the applicant has also added environmental notes to the plan regarding hazmat, noise, and so there is an E designation for hazmat and noise on this site. Vice Chair Shibeta.
Thank you, Chair. I was satisfied with this application. I was satisfied with the information they gave. In addition, with regard to the uniqueness study, I was also satisfied with their argument regarding the defunding and asserting that 2021 is the year to examine ownership due to the Gowanus rezoning. I have no further questions for this applicant.
Okay, thank you.
I also think that, I'm not sure if it was mentioned, but believe the community board approved this.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And they, as I read out, they are very much for housing.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you. Commissioner Otley Brown.
So my financial questions were mostly clarifications. I wanted them to, and corrections. So they had some errors in their site value. So I wanted them to reconcile the numbers across different pages, which they did. They gave us a stacking plan for the apartments, and I wanted them to show their work and show how their outdoor space was 50% of the indoor space for the sales. And it was correct the first time, but as I said before, I had to back into the numbers to determine whether or not it was correct. So I wanted them to add a column on their charting so that it was clear and in front of me for when we get more complicated stacking plans in the future. So they did that. They clarified their construction costs by giving us a table of as of right and proposed hard costs and soft costs. And so I appreciate that they made those corrections. However, they did add a new development cost item that I had not seen before. So I really would love them to explain that. And that's carrying costs during the sellout period. And I've noticed on this case and one other case by this consultant. And I looked through the past 2 years of work and I haven't seen it before. So I would like them to explain why all of a sudden they've started adding it. And if they've just taken it out of another line item and then just separated it out for clarification, or is this a new added construction cost, which I would have a problem with at this point in time, because we've been trying to control the construction costs by having them linked to Marshall and Swift to the extent that they can, as much as they can, giving allowances when a project is particularly complicated. This is not the case. So that's why I want to know more information about it.
I have a question. Oftentimes, and I think it's in this case also, I do see a row that also says vacancy rate and you put in a factor. What is the difference between that and the carrying cost?
A vacancy rate is on the income side, and it usually talks about how long it takes for you to either lease up or sell a property. So I'm not sure what it is on this case, because
There was a
it's
negative.
probably for the first floor for the retail portion of this.
Okay,
And so it's basically saying that if a vacancy rate is higher than usual, it's saying basically that this is not an attractive space. And so it would take a lot longer to lease up. So usually when we see vacancy rates, I allow them to express the difficulty in leasing subpar space by inflating the vacancy rate a little bit. So that would be kind of showing in chart form what you're saying in the narrative.
okay. Thank you. Thank you for the explanation. Let me read out Commissioner Shetta's comments. Commissioner Shetta was okay with the uniqueness, was okay with the financial hardship. And he further states that the uniqueness argument was much better represented, though was not sure if 14%, which is 5 sites, is a unique part of 35 sites. At least it indicates lesser degree of uniqueness than 2% and even 5% in other variance cases. But I think we have recognized that 5 sites generally it seems like a reasonable amount. And yeah. And defer to Commissioner Brown regarding the financing as to whether this meets the minimum variance. So those are Commissioner Shetta's comments. Commissioner Yoon.
Thank you. I had no comments on this, and the only thing I wanted to add to the vacancy line is that when I was working in development of affordable housing, you always had to have some assumption of vacancy in your development budget when you're going for financing and getting approvals, so as to represent some reasonable amount of a month or two of lost rental income as you're turning over the apartments. So that just gets built into the annual development income budget, or a loss against that income. So for rentals, I'm used to seeing it, and I think here it's only shown in the rental portion, as you were saying.
So it's only for the commercial, not for the condo.
In this case.
In this case,
If it were rental,
No.
they would show it.
right. So in
the
this case, the
residential
vacancy rate
space.
is only for the ground floor commercial, as you stated.
I believe so, yeah.
And
And it comes out in the income and expense analysis page.
Right.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Much appreciated.
Move on.
Yes.
New cases, item number 17, 2024-09BZ, 401 Park Avenue, Brooklyn.
Okay, we received proof of initial filing and hearing notices. Community board, we have not received the community board
Review session.
determination. We did receive 2 letters of objection. A very detailed letter was provided by the business operator abutting the subject site. I think the business name is Hercules Heat Treating Corporation. The operator is very concerned about the proximity of a school to its site, which would hinder its ongoing business operation, which is a 24/7 business operation, and the safety of the school. The letter also states that it has been that this particular subject site has been operating as a girls' school for the last 5 years. We also received another letter opposing, stating that the site is contaminated. I would say, especially with regards to the letter that we received from the Hercules Heat, which I found very helpful. The concern that has been raised, these are genuine concerns. I would though say the findings associated with the special permit requires the school to ensure that it will not have an adverse effect on its surrounding non-residential uses. The school will be responsible for attenuating its building, making the school environmentally safe from any emission contamination, and have safety mechanisms be in place to address any traffic concerns. So with that, let me introduce the action that is before us. This is an application pursuant to special permit. I think this should be the new special permit, 73133. Our lineup still has the old special permit number. Special permit 73133 to permit a legalization of a high school that is located on the subject site within an M12 zoning district. This is a corner lot. It has about 372 feet of frontage on Taffy and 118 foot of frontage on Park Avenue. The site this building has been at this site since 1930s, and in 2015 it was renovated for Use Group 9 trade school. However, high school has been operating on this site since the renovation. And there is a certificate of occupancy dated 2016, which basically the occupancies that is listed is for a trade school for adults. So for nearly 10 years, the school has been operating illegally, and a certificate of occupancy for a trade school was issued incorrectly, or I would say obtained incorrectly. So the proposal is that the school is not proposing to modify or enlarge the building. It just wants to legalize the operation of a high school for girls. And it expects some increase in its enrollment by 2026 to 2027. However, the increase would be to right now it's 724. Expected increase would be 833. When I looked at the plans, I didn't see any elevators that would access the building in the cellar or on the partial second floor. I have a question regarding what is happening in the workroom number 15, which has a ramp. I found the naming of the rooms to be very different from other schools. The naming of the room still reads like a trade school. So please revise the naming system if you want if this is a school. And I would like to know if the children use the assembly spaces for recreation. Is food prepared for students, or is it delivered to the site? Is the side yard used by students or faculty? So the threshold for the special permit is that it has to meet the definition of 1210 school definition. Applicant states that the school provides at least 190 days of full-time instruction, inclusive of legal holidays by competent teachers. The school's curriculum includes secular academic classes, computer classes, home economics classes, and religion classes. And this is part of the requirement of New York State Education Law, Section 3204. The applicant states that the school operator will obtain BEDS code once the school is recognized as a lawful use. One of the requirements of BEDS is to obtain a valid CO. A list of affiliated schools listed in the New York State's Office of Religious and Independent School has been provided that has received BEDS, and these schools are run by the same umbrella organization. So based on the information provided, the school would meet the 1210 definition. So moving on to the findings of section 73-133. In its statement, applicant states that prior to the acquisition of the site in 2015, site search was conducted for buildings in northern portion of School District 13 and southern portion of School District 14. What is concerning about this statement is that the operator misled DOB in obtaining a CO for a trade school when the intention was to use it as a school for use group 3. Because of the purposeful misrepresentation, the follow-up argument made in the statement regarding moving to a new site, renovating an as-of-right, being cost prohibitive becomes weak, unlike another case that we heard yesterday, the Wyatt Street School, where the same argument was presented and the board had accepted it. So we have to look at it a little bit more carefully on this one. I don't think we can just take the statement as it's been copied onto this statement. There are 2 documents regarding the search criteria that's been provided, one from the broker and another one from Mr. Rasmussen's office. And the criteria used for the school site in these documents, they do vary, which added a little bit to the confusion. In one case, I think the requirement was to look at sites that are of 44,000 in lot area and is improved. Now, apart from backing into an existing condition, I would like the applicant to clarify the reason for a 44,820 square foot of lot area. Most schools tend to be on multiple levels, and 44,820 square foot is an artificial limit that is almost not achievable except in this one site maybe. So the site search needs to tie in all this argument for its justification for its program space and need for the space and looking for a viable space. Though I would say the letter that I received from the brokers was more helpful. And in that, the broker did look through all other in the zoning districts where the use is permitted as of right. And based on the total floor area, I think there was only one site that seemed to be available. And based on that, the total floor area of the existing building on that site seemed to be less than what they needed. So I would accept that. I though would say the applicant needs to provide a different map, because we received 4 different maps saying 4 different things, and it would be helpful if one map is provided that ties in all the supporting maps, the catchment area with the zip code, with the school district, and that way we know what is the area within which, and the zoning district map, so that we know at least what is the catchment area within which the school can be located. With regards to finding B, the site is partially located within 400 feet of a residential district. Majority of the school building is outside. However, in the past, the board has accepted a lot that is partially within 400 foot to meet this criteria. With regards to finding C, and I went through all the comments that we have received from various city agencies, so I'm going to read the DEP comments. DEP comment states that there is significant impact due to industrial emission. And since children would be exposed to the high pollutant level when they are outside the school building, the use of inoperable windows is not a sufficient means of mitigation. So based on DEP's comments, it would seem that just sealing the building up with all fixed windows and alternate means of ventilation will not be adequate. Children and staff at the site will need to be protected when standing outside. All measures, physical and operational, will have to be taken on the subject site to secure the occupants of the subject building without affecting the surrounding business operations. So that leads me to the question. I do notice there are side yards located along the west and along the north frontage. Are these side yards that are located, are they used by students and staff? And applicant needs to respond to DEP's comments regarding air quality and noise. And this is a critical factor, and especially the letter we received from the operator of Hercules Heat Treatment Facility. So those need to be responded to. With regards to D, according to the EAS, 99% of its students and 80% of its staff walk to the site. There are no existing or proposed bus for the school. Students are expected to cross the local truck routes. And this I'm reading from DOT's comments. Students are expected to cross local truck routes. Accident data from DOT shows that there is less than 5 accidents this is a response to DOT's comments. Applicant states that there is less than 5 accidents with pedestrian and or bicycle injuries in any consecutive 12 months of the most recent 3-year period for which data is available. And I believe DOT is not agreeing with that because this data is from the period when it was pandemic period. So the data needs to be from a non-pandemic period when, of course, we know the amount of vehicular and pedestrian volume was much less. So those need to be revised. Applicant, we did receive a letter from school safety. While the letter seems to be supportive of this proposal, the school safety has identified several conditions that need to be addressed and met in order for this project to go forward. In the ES proposal, the applicant is stating that crossing guards would be staffed at the intersection of Park Avenue and Taffy Place and Flushing Avenue and Taffy Place, and will install no standing school day parking regulations along both school frontages during school hours to minimize the potential for conflict between curbside vehicular activities and walking students. So first of all, I want a map of the accident data, the most recent based on what DOT is requiring. Also, the proposal of the proposed operational measure in the EAS relies on 2 crossing guards and 2 school safety staff to greet the students. I find this statement somewhat very much contrary to the current arrival schedule of staff, because the statement says that staff will be arriving after 9 a.m. student arrival. Students start arriving at 9 p.m. and staff will be arriving after 9 p.m. So I'm not sure. Sorry, 9 a.m. Yeah, okay. I meant 9 a.m. Nobody goes to school after 9 p.m. Nobody should.
Maybe it's a trade school.
Maybe, but they should. They should. If it was a trade school. But they should sleep after 9 p.m. so that they can wake up fresh and do their good patch. So asking the school safety staff to greet the students would be contrary, since the statement very clearly says, and the ES documents also states that staff arrive after 9 a.m. Student arrival. So DOT needs to be made aware of these various timing schedules, arrival schedules, and departure schedules of students in considering any such proposal. Regarding the proposed physical improvements, DOT has identified, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4 proposed physical improvements. One is new or improved as applicable ADA pedestrian ramps at all corners of Park Avenue and Taffy Place intersection, and the Taffy Place and Flushing Avenue intersection. Second, improved and repaired sidewalks and curbs that satisfy the applicable New York City DOT standards, including restoring curb cuts along project sites frontage to a full height curbs and sidewalks. Third, the installation of, and this one I have concern with, the installation of no standing school days 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. parking regulations along both school frontages. And fourth is concrete curb extension at the northeast and northwest corner of Park Avenue and Taffy Place. Since no school buses will be used, the school is very emphatic and clear about that no school buses will be used to drop off and pick up students. I'm not sure that both school frontages should become a no standing during school days when there are active businesses operating on this block front. Specifically, my concern is with regards to Taffy. Taffy, while yes, it's a narrow 50-foot wide street, currently it only permits parking on the east side and no parking on the west side. When I look through the Google map, I do see illegal vehicles parked on the west side, partially on the sidewalk and partially on the street. Whatever the proposal DOT is considering, I don't think it is going to change the need for the parking need, and fact that there are very active businesses located on the east side of Taffy should be factored in when discussing these removal of on-street parking requirements. I sincerely would have DOT reconsider their recommendation, because I think removal of on-street parking on the east side may have an adverse effect on the business operation, and that would be contrary to the finding that this board has to make. So applicant needs to needs to be mindful of that, and I would strongly urge DOT to reconsider an alternative. And I would say the same thing for the portion of the frontage on Park Avenue. As I said, this particular block has a lot of active businesses, and there is need for parking for these active businesses. And if the school is not going to be using any of its will not be relying on school buses for children to be dropped off, and most of them walk, and these are high school children, I think crossing guard and if the staff can arrive before 9 a.m. Would be sufficient to provide security, safety for that. Also, there is one statement that was made that the school administration and safety staff would regulate vehicular curbside activities along the frontage and curb cut activities at neighboring uses to the greatest extent possible. I'm concerned about this statement, and as it is, the school is not able to address that with the west side curb cut. So I think this is very it's just a statement to appease. I don't think it's an effective one. So do something that is effective, that is reliable, that can be monitored and managed. So goes back to my comment on Taffy. Do not remove east side on-street parking. As I said, this is a very challenging site, and given very high active manufacturing uses that are located on this subject block, a placement of a school and legalization, especially in this case of a school at the site, needs a very, very thorough review at DOT and at DEP. And until I have a very clear read from them and recommendations and implementation plan, I remain concerned about the environment that will be created for our students. Vice Chair Shibeta.
Well, thank you, Chair, for that very thorough review. I do not want to be repetitive. All I want to do is add that the applicant stated many children are walking to school. There are no school buses. And this makes me further concerned with regard to the EAS as air quality. As it stated, children will be exposed to the high pollutant levels when they are outside the school building, and that impacts the C finding. And I just don't know how they can address that.
They can wear all masks.
We can all wear masks. That might be it. I don't know.
Gas masks.
I find I haven't seen. I'm sure probably Jared has seen an ES like that before, where they're saying something that egregious, but I haven't seen that.
I think we are seeing I mean, I know we're joking around, but this is not. It's not to be joked. It's a serious matter. However, I think DEP has to do that analysis.
Right.
And DEP has to give us that guidance as to what measures and what is an acceptable measure for such kind of operation to be located. And if they have to be located without affecting the businesses, what they can do on their site to protect the children.
The safety of the children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have nothing further to add.
Commissioner Otley Brown.
So I agree with you that I would let the expert agency weigh in on how safe the air is for people walking on the street. And I wouldn't comment on that. My only comment here has to do with the site search and to kind of set parameters for future analyses. The urban cartographics analysis is not helpful to the board because all it is doing is taking a broad look at an entire neighborhood and showing where development might be possible. But that's not what the finding is. The finding is that you could not find an available site in an as of right district to locate your school. And so the urban cartographics analysis doesn't even go into any research as to whether any sites are actually available. It's just saying this site is a certain size and it could accommodate a school of this size. But all of those sites were actually used.
Right.
So none of them were available.
There is actually one site that was a parking lot that was not used.
Okay, well,
Underused.
yeah, so I would say though that I would look towards the broker letter that was submitted because that actually speaks
agree.
to the finding far better.
Yeah.
You know, it talks about how when looking for a site with certain parameters, and I think they more accurately spoke about having a site with at least 20,000 square feet that could accommodate
Mhm.
a 45,000 square foot program. That they could not find anything within the catchment area that they defined.
Yeah.
And then they talked about two sites that were outside of the catchment area, but were in as of right districts, but were not acceptable to them because number one, the first site on Flatbush was too small, not laid out properly, and the lease space was most probably going to be too expensive. And that the other space on Johnson was out of the catchment area and too small, providing only 31,000 square feet of possible program area. So I think the broker's letter is what helped them to make the A finding, certainly not the other letter. And so in the future, I would hope that applicants stop giving us an analysis of potential development sites that are not development sites. It's just a waste of our time.
Yeah.
Another thing is, which I thought was really interesting, made me question, was within the broker's letter, when they were discussing their parameters, they talked about adequate street frontage, both to accommodate school bus drop-off or pickup, as well as appropriate lighting in classrooms. And if this site does not have school buses, why is that a parameter that the broker is looking for? And so that's my question also. The broker needs to, in the future, make sure that they coordinate with the owners of the school or the people who run the school to ensure that they're both looking for the right thing.
Yeah.
And then present it to us as a unified site search. So those are my questions, and I don't have any other questions that differ from anything that you are actually raising. I think you're raising valid points that should be addressed.
Thank you for actually bringing that point about the broker's letter. Yes, I did find that ironic, given that everybody talks about 99% walk and no school bus. So again, please, when applicant, when you are reviewing and pulling together all these documents, please make sure it's consistent and it's consistent what the goals and objectives and the criteria the school is laying out. I find so far, I have to say, and this is not surprising. When you are trying to legalize, you're trying to back into the site that you have in hand. And which really ties our hand, unfortunately, and it's not a fair way to look at it. And it's definitely in this particular case, given what I'm reading from the environmental reports and from DEPs, it's a concerning site. So, okay.
Well, also what makes it difficult is it's a legalization. The site is in operation, so that
Right.
also adds to the difficulty. Not that we haven't seen it before, but I'm
But-
just saying that adds to
Right.
the problematicness of this.
Absolutely. And I don't think we have seen schools in the midst of manufacturing, in intense manufacturing use
Yeah,
like this one.
We have.
we've had probably a decade ago, a legalization on a site in this area where the school was operating and the amount of contamination was coming in through the cellar and affecting the air within the building that the young people were attending. And the school was in operation when they came to us. And there was a lot of restorative work that had to be done while the students were in the building, basically.
I remember the monitoring and the,
Yeah, the vapor barrier.
barrier.
Is this
the
the Willoughby?
constant- Yeah, the constant monitoring of the air,
Thank
not to
you.
mention the location. Because it was on a pretty industrial block
Okay.
and the young women had to walk past a lot of industrial activity that was active.
Active activity.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't have any
We're
comments
still in review
from
session.
Commissioner Sheta on this yet.
we're still in review session. When we do the public hearing, I'll let you know and you can come up.
Okay,
When you
I
come
don't have any
forward.
comments from Commissioner Sheta on this. Commissioner Yoon.
Okay, thank you. I agree with everything that's been said. I also thought the site search was strange. I thought it was falsely limiting to not include the zip code where the actual school is, which is 11205, which is a zip code I used to live in. So not sure why you would just have the study or the analysis cover 3 zip codes and not the one that the school is in, and also that has a lot of the catchment area. A lot of the students live in 11205. Also don't know exactly why 20,000 square feet is the magic number. Why that is the limit when you can have a multi-level school, as we've seen many, many times. But I don't want to repeat all of the other comments on site search. On the C finding, I also obviously have concerns about how they're going to address the high pollutant levels. And that will be for further discussion with DEP. On the traffic on D, so there's a couple of inconsistencies, as we've mentioned, about transportation. And in the EAS, the photos submitted show buses waiting in front of the school. So we need to get a better understanding of why there are so many references to buses and why the EAS posits that it's 99.4% modal split pedestrian and no school buses. So a little more discussion on that. There's also a couple of times where I am no seeker expert, but in the school safety letter and in the EAS, where the existing condition does not seem to be accurately addressed because the school is operational. So there's the no action condition, which is a vacant building. And then there's the proposed action, but there is an existing school with existing children going to school every day. So in the EAS, there's in 2.3.5, there's a detailed pedestrian analysis that occurred in January of this year when the school was not in session. So there was not a big increase from the no action condition. What would be the point of doing a detailed pedestrian analysis when school is not in session for the existing condition? Again, this is all going to be administered by our sister agencies, but I think some explanation of why the existing condition isn't actually being monitored to give us real data of how the school is operating would be helpful. And I think that's,
I think it has to do with the fact that it's a legalization. And because it's a legalization, you're going back to as if it wasn't in existence.
Right.
Because
What
it
I do.
hasn't, it's not an approved use. So you have to take your analysis back, almost as if this school doesn't
Never
exist
Yeah.
and they're coming here for a special permit.
that's the no action condition, and they
Right.
clearly say that.
No, it should also be the existing condition because it's a legalization, then the proposed condition is the existing condition.
So
in this
otherwise,
case.
we're not, so typically the analysis is you have an existing condition and then you do an incremental, right? And in this case, the incremental shouldn't be the existing, existing should be the new condition. So but I think what you're saying is that. the
Why are we not
analysis-
monitoring based on actual data? That's the
Right.
point. Maybe I'm
So-
jumbling the verbiage. and
No,
apologize,
I
but-
know what you're saying. I think what you're saying is that why can't we use the data from the existing school to populate the analysis,
Yeah,
which makes
Right.
perfect sense. But the no action being vacant to propose being the school, you're okay with that?
Yeah.
It's-
So I apologize for the technical
No, I got you.
representation, but I am just trying to understand why we're not using the actual data of the
I-
existing, the school that is in place right now. Because also in the school safety letter, there is a reference in item 4 about how students do use Little Nassau Street, but it was confirmed that they don't use Little Nassau Street. So there are these conflicting proposed action assumptions in the EAS with what is actually happening today.
I think one thing has to do with the operational procedural guidelines that the agencies direct people to do in the
Yeah.
analysis. And then
Right.
they go, oh, by the way, we visited the site as
Yes,
part of
yeah.
our review and we noticed bloppity blop, address that as well.
Yes, a very simple, practical confusion on my part. Just don't understand the data is there.
I-
Maybe some better explanation and consistency across what seems to be actually happening and what is being proposed in the text.
I think this would be a good time to have Ms. Benke add some
Yes.
information.
Tracy?
Yes. Well, DOT is issuing comments, so we will look into this. I understand exactly the concern, so.
And DEP and DEP's comments, have they been responded or those are also need to be responded to?
They do need to be responded to. The applicant should give an update on that.
And I think sorry, go ahead, Ms. Prenga.
I think they analyzed the pedestrians because they wanted, perhaps on a day that's not, when school is in session, because they need to, look at the level of service without the school as if it was the no action, and then put in the school and show how the LOS changes, the level of service changes with the school.
Thank you. That makes sense. Thank you. I apologize.
I think, but the applicant or the consultant can clarify their methodology for sure.
I would say though, the comments of DEP and DOT should not be overlooked or the applicant should take time in responding in a proper manner. I think because this would just cause further delay and exacerbate the condition under which these students are studying. If you want to legalize and want to ensure students study in a very healthy environment, then correct the wrongs and make it safe and healthy for everybody without affecting the abutting businesses.
And one other note I forgot to mention, that in the school safety letter number 8, they ask that because the existing school is already illegally operational on site, we ask that the requested safety mitigation measures are installed as soon as possible, and that the board considers additional measures to ensure that the applicant follows up on their commitments. So it does seem like a request that we consider through the course of this application, the implementation of certain safety measures since the school is operational.
Yeah, I think for me that it's a little bit of a chicken and the egg,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
If you're not comfortable with, if the application does not meet the findings, we cannot even go ahead in having them implement this.
Yeah.
Well, we can certainly ask them to take certain, to follow certain measures and to try to take certain safety while we're contemplating.
Jella? I think.
School safety did, email us this morning, or maybe it was late last night, but, they would like the, reconstruction of the sidewalks prior to sign off, but they've asked if it's feasible.
I think it's too early for me to kind of even, there are too many open questions on this one. I am not ready. um, I'm not convinced that this is the site. Okay.
Okay. Move on?
Yeah.
Item number 18, 2024-36 BZ, 26 City Island Avenue, Bronx.
Okay, we received proof of initial filing and hearing notices. Community Board has approved this application. This is a reinstatement of a pre-1961 application pursuant to zoning resolution section 11-411 of a previously approved variance to continue to permit a portion of the subject lot that is located in a residential district to continue to provide parking and also seeking waiver of board's rule. So the zoning district is split between two zoning districts, C14 overlay on in an R3 and an R3 portion. Back in 1955, variance was granted to allow 22 additional parking spaces in the residential portion of this the subject zoning lot. And there were conditions associated with it.
Oh.
However, I think the last extension on this was granted back in 1970 and the term expired in 1975. There were 5-year extensions that were being granted. So the applicant is requesting a reinstatement of the use of the residential portion of the site for parking. Letter of affidavit has been provided by Theodore Harika, I apologize if I'm not pronouncing the name properly, stating that Lobster Box has been operating on the site at least since 1965, based on newspaper advertisements that were found. I actually found that an interesting, helpful way of addressing continuous use. Now, the advertisements are from 1965, 1966, 1970, 1979, 1995, and the last one was from 2010. So
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Yep.
The zoning is C22, not C14?
Oh, I'm sorry, then a C22 overlay on an R32. I mistyped it. Thank you for that correction. It's a
Thank you,
C22.
counsel.
Yeah, it's a C22. Thank you for catching it. That's why I have such a great team all around me. Makes it easy for me. So continuing on the continuous use comment, so the 2010 article mentions that Lobster Box is closing. So my question is, did it close? And if so, when did it reopen? So the applicant went through the findings of 11-411 and requesting a permit for a 10-year extension of term. The 1955 resolution had conditions, and the applicant needs to ensure at least some of the, I need to see some interior site photos to see if those conditions were met, though I think it would make sense for us to look at this site, given the surrounding context, to see whether these conditions that were previously considered are appropriate, or do we need to add new conditions? So for that, I would like the applicant to provide interior site condition photos, clarify on the plan the proposed height of the fences along Rochelle Street, Belden Street, and along the rear lot line. Clarify the approved existing and proposed entrance. Clarify the existing and proposed entrance and exit to and from the lot. I'm not sure if it is from the City Island Avenue only, or is it also from Belden? Belden is located in the portion of the entrance on Belden Avenue is in the R3A portion. And also want to know if there are any light fixtures in the parking area. Those are my questions for now. Vice Chair Shiveda.
Thank you, Chair. I have no further comment.
Okay, Commissioner Otley Brown.
So I agree with you that they should be able to provide some closing of the gap here without doing too much extra work in terms of their proof of continuous use. This is a landmark restaurant for City Island. I mean, anybody who frequents City Island knows the Lobster Box is like one of the places to go. That being said, there should be plenty of opportunity to show us that this use was continuous for that entire time. And I have to say, if you had the benefit of operating without a special permit or a variance for the parking since 1975, the least you could do is be a little bit more energetic in trying to prove to us that the use was continuous since then.
Yeah. And it's really the use of the accessory parking, and since it's accessory to the business.
Right, we're
That's-
giving you the fact that all you have to do is prove to us that the business is existing, because we understand that if the business was existing, the parking lot was used.
Yeah,
So we're even giving you that. So it should not be difficult for you to provide that.
yeah.
I mean, I was just looking right now on the Google Maps, and just looking at Google Maps, the street view, you've got 2016, 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2022 photos of it in operation right there. And that closes part of that 2010 to 2022 gap.
Mhm.
Boom, just like that.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be very difficult for them to do. They really should do it, because if we ask all of the applicants to do it, it's going to look strange if we let this applicant off the hook and say, you don't have to do it.
Right. I agree.
We have to keep a record.
I have no other issues with this case,
Okay.
actually.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sheta?
Wanted some extra evidence, example, maps and others regarding the continuous use. There are, so Commission also want to know there are 2 residential properties along the eastern lot line. Explain how they will be, these 2 properties will be protected from noise and lighting. Also wanted a FEMA map. Need some extra evidence on continuous use. I think that's, I'm repeating, so that's it. Those are the comments. Commissioner Yoon?
Thank you. I have nothing further to add.
Item number 19, 2024-49BZ, 3454 Nostrand Avenue, Brooklyn.
Okay, we received proof of initial filing and hearing notices. Community Board has approved this application. We did receive 1 letter of objection regarding vehicles accessing the site. And that these vehicles would block through traffic and bus movement. Not that these vehicles block the through traffic and bus movements, and also received a letter of support. This is an application for a special permit pursuant to zoning resolution section 73-311 to permit an accessory drive-through facility with an as-of-right eating and drinking establishment located at the subject site. As you know, this site has been before the board since 1955, where initially it was granted a variance for an accessory parking lot for a supermarket. And after that, since 2009, the pre-ZEO special permit for drive-through was permitted, and that right now the applicant is basically reverting the application to the new ZEO special permit for applicable to drive-through. So the applicant has provided prior board conditions and compliance charts and all the supporting information. Applicant needs to repaint the graffitied wall. It has been a troubled wall, I would say, ever since I've been in the case. And it has been attractive to graffiti makers. So I would ask the applicant to consider an art wall if possible, if that can deter graffiti makers. Also, the applicant needs to restripe the parking and all the directional signages. So going through the findings of 73-311, the site does meet finding A. It provides required 10 spaces for drive-through. With regards to finding B, applicant states that 100 to 150 vehicles access the site daily and 5 required on-street parking spaces are provided. The existing operator has been at this location since 2020, actually more than, 2020. Starbucks has been at this site since 2020. And since I've been on this board during these periods, board's review and committee board response did not state any issues regarding drive-through impeding traffic flow on either street frontages. We did receive an objection letter from the neighbor regarding vehicles entering and blocking traffic on Gravesend Neck Road and blocking bus movements when vehicles are exiting the drive-through on Nordstrand Avenue. So DOT will be reviewing the analysis as part of the findings, so I'll await for their response. However, the applicant should provide more description of the vehicle flow entering and exiting during peak period, vehicle accumulation during peak period, and provide an operational plan of containing vehicles within the site. I wasn't sure, I didn't see it in the plan or in the photos, if there is a stop sign before the exit from the drive-through. With regards to finding C, the subject site meets the findings. The site is located within the commercial overlays that extend along both Gravesend Neck Road and Nordstrand Avenue. With regards to finding D, I found the lumen spread acceptable. The lumen level is at 0 at the property level. The drive-through speaker will have an automatic voice control device. When active, the outbound noise will reduce to 15 dBA with ambient at speakers post. In addition to all these measures being taken, I want the applicant to add a good neighbor sign along the drive-through that would ask the occupants of the vehicles awaiting in the drive-through to lower any radio volumes or anything that is coming from the car. Regarding air quality, projected traffic volume is below the SECRA threshold. In this case, the threshold is 170 peak hour volume trip. And based on what has been provided, I believe it estimates during the peak 100 to 150 vehicles access the site daily. That's not even the peak. And it will not exceed the CO screenings threshold. With regards to finding E, there is also landscaping that has been provided along the rear corner. The area where the menu board is closest to the residential rear yards. Landscaping provides additional buffer. I would say it's more of a visual buffer and adds to rounds up that corner. In addition, along with abutting residential property line and partially along the rear of the abutting commercial building, there is a 6-foot high noise barrier panel that is in place, and this is to minimize any noise generating from the vehicles awaiting and from the menu board, and also minimizing the lumen spread onto the residential portion. And the fence also provides a visual buffer. So I have no other comments unless, Ms. Benke, if there is any update on the DOT review.
Hi, we didn't send this for DOT review at this time because it was existing and we needed confirmation if the board would like DOT review. It's a type 2 and there is no traffic analysis per se. So the review, we would need more information of the items you just requested, and we can send the site plan if that's how the board would like to proceed. And one other it would have a prerequisite of LPC review under the type 2.
Yeah, I think I want the applicant to respond to the concern that was raised by the local neighbor as to how they are addressing any spillover of any vehicles at the Graves end. And if they can respond to that, I want to hear that first before I. Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Shibata.
Thank you, Chair. No comments.
Commissioner Otley Brown.
I have no comment.
Okay. Okay, the comment is add a note to the plan to indicate that AVC will be on at all times. Commissioner Yoon.
Thank you. I have no comments.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, recalling second calling item from yesterday, 8892 BZ, Volume 3, 3007 East
Just
Tremont
give me
Avenue, the
like
Bronx.
1 second, I just want to finish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just give me 1 second.
Want to finish your note and then come back?
Okay, go ahead. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, so again, 8892 BZ, Volume 3, 3007 East Tremont Avenue, the Bronx.
Okay, I am scrolling up to the case. We had to second call it because we were waiting for a revised
Owner authorization.
right, affidavit authorization. We have received it. Everybody had a chance to look at it. Okay.
Still waiting for the community board.
Yeah, we have not, so we received proof of initial filing and hearing notice. We have not received a community board determination. This is an application for an extension of term pursuant to zoning resolution section 11-41 of an approved variance to continue to operate an existing eating and drinking establishment on the subject site. So the history of the site is incomplete, include prior BSA resolution from 1954 and provide the narrative accordingly. I read through the 2004 BSA resolution. We provided a comprehensive history. However, the narrative that has been provided by the applicant is incomplete. Please clarify if in 1980 board had omitted the off-street parking on block 5375 lot 15 because that's what the resolution says in the 1980. It's granted an amendment to omit the off-street parking located on the east side of Erickson Place. And so my question is why it still continues to be on the certificate of occupancy. Was the 1980 grant abandoned by the owner and retained the parking space? So there are the case, the subject site is where the eating and drinking establishment and early part of 1950s or so, there was an site that was acquired or leased that was located on the east side of Erickson Place where parking, vehicular parking was provided for this particular facility. However, as I said, in 1980, there was a grant that amended that. So a compliance chart has been provided. I want the applicant to provide photos of the yards and the fence condition. Based on the photos that's been provided, there seems to be graffiti on the wall along Erickson Place, and the yard nearest to the intersection is covered. So which is not supposed to, which is not as the approved plan was or as the plan shown before us. The proposed plan does not match with the photos and Google Street View regarding covered yards and enclosed outdoor seating. Applicant needs to provide a roof plan of the existing building. I need to see where all the dunnage and others are located. Google Street View shows an outdoor covered dining area along East Tremont Avenue. Don't know if it's a permitted shed, and if it is, please provide a proof. regarding signage, clarify if prior board had any conditions regarding the signage. And those are my comments, Vice Chair Shibeta.
No further comment. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
I have no additional comments.
Commissioner Sheta didn't have any additional comments. Commissioner Yoon,
Thank you. I have nothing further.
okay. All right,
This concludes the the review session for November 19th, 2024. We'll resume at
it's 11:24. Should we resume at 11:35?
Yeah,
11:1?
35.
11:35? Okay.
Yeah. This will allow for all the applicants to collect their team. Be ready for the lineup of hearings.
Are you presenting for?
You're from Brian Cave,
Right.
Ms. Matias, we are live, we are streaming. You may proceed with the public hearing.
Good morning. This is the New York City Board of Standards and Appeals public hearing for Tuesday, November 19th, 2024. We'll begin with the zoning calendar, continued hearing items. Item number 13, 2022, 23BZ, 1520 East 56th Street, Brooklyn.
Okay, we have two Sandys. I'm going to pick one.
Might be someone with her. Hold on. A lot of people in the room.
Yeah. I don't know if she's there. I've let her in. Is Sandy there? Has she done
Diane
this?
Mastu, is you there?
Can you send a text? Thanks, Tony.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, so I think one Sandy is in,
One second.
and both Sandys are in now.
Is she in?
I think so. No? No.
There she
Yes,
is.
yes,
Okay,
there she
great.
is. There she is, okay.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning. Is there anyone with you, Mrs. Agnostu?
No, just me.
Okay, raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board, and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
Please state your name for the record and please proceed to respond to the board's comments at review session.
Sandy Anagnostou, representing the Office of Caliendo Architects.
Okay, you heard our comments. I think the board was satisfied with the information.
Yes, I did. Thank you for the
Okay.
board's patience and guidance on this case.
Thank you. Any questions or comments you have for us or us for the applicant? No. Let's go to the public then.
The case that we're currently discussing, sorry, is 2022-23BZ, 1520 East 56th Street, Brooklyn. Should you wish to comment and provide testimony, please dial 669-254-5252. At the prompt, you will enter the webinar ID number 161-959-2426 and press the pound sign. At the prompt after that, you'll press the pound sign only. Once you're permitted in, you'll press *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute as you are calling in on the phone. And if you're in the Zoom room already and your hand is, please raise your hand, and it's a little hand at the bottom of your computer screen. Once you are recognized, you'll have 3 minutes in which to provide testimony. Just waiting for the clock to run out. Almost there.
I want to make a motion to close.
Chair Shonda,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shabeta,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Yoon.
Aye. No submission is required for this, and we'll schedule this for early January decision.
Great, thank you so much.
You.
Item number, sorry, item number 14, 2024-03 BZ, 117 Spencer Street, Brooklyn.
This would be Alexia. Is there anyone else? Is Barbara here? I think Barbara. No, Barbara is, I don't see Barbara here.
Good morning.
Good morning. Is anyone participating with you, Ms. Lendersman?
No, just me today.
Okay. Raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
Please state your name for the record and proceed to respond to the board's comments at review session.
My name is Alexia Landisman. I'm here on behalf of the applicant from Sheldon Lobel PC. We have attended the executive session and heard the board's comments. We will be revising the plans to remove the second mechanical room on the 4th floor. We will remove the deductions and we will make a note on all of the mechanical spaces that they will not be used towards anything that counts as floor area. As you had mentioned, Chair, the floor area ratio would stay relatively similar, and so Barbara's financials will stay intact, which is why she is not at the public session with me. And regarding the community board hearing, we had mentioned at the previous hearing there was a community board hearing on this, and the board voted 10 in favor, 1 opposed. So the community board approved the application. I'm not entirely sure why they haven't sent their recommendation. I will also try to reach out and see if they can forward that over.
We also asked not only the elimination of the mechanical space, but also not counting the quality housing waiver. So those also need to be collected from the drawings.
Yes, we will remove those deductions as you had mentioned.
Okay. Actually, does it change the sellable for the mechanical space? It's 49 or so square foot.
I said if it changes it noticeably,
Right.
like hard, more than, I mean, if it's 50 square feet per apartment, it's not gonna make a difference. It's only 3 apartments. So I don't really need to look at a whole new financial for that.
Okay. And the deduction of the quality housing does not change because we did factor those as a common area and other spaces. Right. Okay. Any other questions or comments, Commissioner Yoon? Are you satisfied with the?
I mean, the only thing that really hasn't been addressed is why you have the mechanical spaces. So you asked for a justification, but they're going to add a note that says no uses that count towards floor area will be.
Well, I think every unit having a mechanical space is okay, but there were
Right.
2 mechanical spaces per dwelling unit on each floor, which to me seemed redundant given that it's an electrical, it's going to be all electric. So. and-
Sorry. In response to Commissioner Yu's question, I was told by the architect that it would just be mainly for boiler and HVAC. So that's primarily what the mechanical spaces will be used for, but we will remove the second mechanical space in the second unit.
And you
per
can,
the chair's comment.
right, so you can contain everything that you need in that one mechanical space. That's what I want to make sure, right? Yeah.
I believe so. If the other 2 apartments have the same layout, I think that they should be fine with the 1 mechanical. I will speak to the architect. Unless there's an issue, we will obviously alert the board on why we need the second mechanical space. But as it stands, we will remove the second mechanical space and have those plans revised.
Okay, thank you.
Executive Director Costanza's hand is up and Executive Director Benke is up.
No, Ms. Benke was first. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask that if there's any changes to the plans, just to check the EAS to make sure it's up to date, matches with the plans and has the latest amended to the final EAS. And all the narratives, if anything discussed changes that, please update.
Will the mechanicals changing drastically change the EAS?
I don't believe so, but
I'll follow up
if you
with
take a look, yeah.
I'll follow up with Kevin.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Carla.
Yes, Madam Chair, I just wanted to ask if the quality housing, if there's no credit being taken or can't be taken for the quality housing, was there any recreational space allocated? I believe it's like 4% for quality housing.
No, well, there is a rec room in the basement, but I don't, that also should not be counted towards quality housing, though it has been counted in the financing as part of the common area or amenity space.
Yeah, thank you. I just while the applicant is working on the plans, I just wanted to make sure that everything is just clear.
Right. So just anywhere there is any deduction that's been taken with regards to quality housing, just eliminate those. I do have another question, and for the units, that's the unit number 1, which has also access to the cellar space and also it's like a triplex. I think the unit number 1 is a triplex. Unit number 2 is duplex. Unit number 3 is duplex. It's unit number 1. Why do you need the mechanical space on the second floor when you can have the mechanical space in the cellar?
That is a question I will pose to the architect, and we can address that in a cover letter. I need to speak with ownership on that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I don't think it's the flood zone that is requiring to put the mechanical space above the flood zone. So if you don't need to, then put the mechanical space in the cellar and free up that space. And don't provide the mechanical space on the second floor of the dwelling unit number 1.
Okay. Anything?
This would actually take away another 49 square foot deduction from the total floor area. Any other question? Okay, let's go to the public then.
Okay, the case that we're currently discussing is 2024 03BZ 117 Spencer Street. Should you wish to comment? Sorry. Please dial 669-254-5252. At the prompt, you'll enter the webinar ID number 161-959-2426 and press the pound sign. At the prompt after that, you press the pound sign only. Once you're permitted in, you press *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute as you're calling in on the phone. And if you're in the Zoom room already and wish to participate also, please raise your Zoom hand, which is the little hand at the bottom of your computer screen. Once you are recognized in any format, you will have 3 minutes to provide testimony.
How much time do you
And it's
need to
leaking.
make
Okay.
these corrections?
I think we can turn this around in 2 weeks.
Right, what is the submission for
November 21st.
November 21st is the submission date.
We can try to make that work. I mean, it effectively, the comments were quite minimal on the plans as far as reducing the mechanical space. So I'll speak with the architect and see if we can turn that around quickly. I think that the applicant is really eager to close today, only because the outstanding items are the plans, which we will revise upon the next hearing. And we have community support as well as we believe we've met the findings, with regards to all of the requirements.
Let me just jump in and say, right now, it appears that you have 5 square feet of zoning floor area permitted remaining based on your current zoning analysis. And when you remove these deductions and the mechanical rooms, you're talking about over 200 square feet of zoning floor area that would need to be further removed from the project. You're so close to hitting your maximum that these deductions may have some impact on your overall layout.
And that is one of the reasons why I'm being so stickler for these deductions that have been added, which may not, which A are not, cannot be taken, and B, in the case of mechanical, are redundant. And that is why I'm being so particular about it. And so you would need to revise your statement of facts and all your other analysis. So I don't think 2 weeks is enough. I can schedule this for early January.
Okay.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
mean, to that, I mean, I don't know how much of a stickler you want to be about the mechanical spaces. I will say they seem still very big to me, but I don't know why a domestic hot water heater or an instantaneous water heater. I'm not sure what's going in there that needs so much space. So if we're going to be sticklers, I've worked on projects that are fully electric that have domestic hot water heaters per unit, but they're not that big. So why do we need a full walk-in closet?
Well, that's why a note is going to be put there that says
I
it
understand.
will not be used to serve any uses that generate floor area, including laundry rooms and storage rooms.
Right. Okay.
So it would be a very big, generous mechanical space.
Big old water heater closet. Okay.
Yeah, you can take a lot of showers.
Okay, so no one called in, no one raised their hands.
All right, thank you.
Are we able to close, before we submit the plans?
No, we cannot close because it does go to one of the findings of how much is the minimum in terms of the floor area.
Understood.
Okay, if this was addressed at the last hearing based on the comments, we may have been one step closer, but no,
Understood.
thank you.
Item number 15, 2024-19BZ, 5802 Northern Boulevard, Queens.
This would be Sandy and Lisa. And I don't know, anyone else from their team. Jessica, Joseph Volcaggio. Anyone else that you need?
Damian Corbett.
Joseph Volcaggio, do you need?
Yes, please.
Okay. Damian. Yes.
Corbett.
Yes.
Yes, I think that's everyone.
Damian Corbett. Okay, all right.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is everybody?
Mr.
in the room?
Volcaggio, can you, oh, there we go. Okay, and Mr. Corbett, please join us.
Yes.
One sec. Mr. Corbett. Okay. All righty, everyone unmute, please raise your right hands. Unmute. Good. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I
Yeah.
do.
I do.
I do.
I do.
Okay. Please state your name for the record and proceed to respond to the board's comments at review session.
Sandy Anagnostiu, representing the applicant. Good afternoon. We heard the comments during the review session and they're very minor. We'll revise the note to specifically say no parking for e-vehicles only. So we will change that language and we can do that today. And then we would follow up with DOT obtaining the permits for these spaces. We will also add the 2 notes, environmental notes, one for the E designation and then DBA. We can also do that today. If I can confirm with Ms. Benke the exact language for those 2 notes, we can
Yes,
do.
actually, you do have the DBA one on there already. So
Okay.
Jella just sent you one for the E designation. And then we would need the EAS updated because it doesn't mention the E designation right now. So once that's updated and the plans, then the EAS will be final.
Okay, I'll reach out to Mr. Rothkrug. I'm sure he can update the EAS very quickly, and the plans we can do today, and we'll submit both within days, like this week.
All right. Yeah, I don't think we had any substantive comment. We were satisfied with this application. So I want to thank the team for working with us in responding to all the comments. Any questions or comments? All right, let's go to the public.
Okay, the case that we're currently discussing is 2024-19BZ 5802 Northern Boulevard, Queens. Should you wish to comment, dial 669-254-5252. At the prompt, you'll enter the webinar ID number 161-959-2426 and press the pound sign. At the prompt after that, you'll press the pound sign only. Once you're permitted in, you will press *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute as you're calling in on the phone. And if you're in the Zoom room already and wish to participate, please raise your Zoom hand, which is the little hand at the bottom of your computer screen. Once you're recognized in any format, you will have 3 minutes in which to provide testimony.
I think while we are waiting for the clock to run out, I want to be very clear. The grant that we are, I'm going to recommend that we close this application, and should the board approve this, one of the condition would be that this facility will be used for e-vehicle showrooms. Anything other than that would be contrary to all the findings that the board went through. So I just want to make sure that's clear to the applicant's team.
Did you say e-vehicle or vehicle showroom?
It would be showroom for e-vehicles.
So they won't be allowed to use another vehicle?
Unless, if they're going to use it for another vehicle, it has to follow the same exact parameters of the showroom. That it's just a place where you come and see and walk away, never.
Okay, so e-vehicles terminology means electric vehicles only.
Right, electric vehicles.
They were specific that this was not, they don't have any fully electric vehicles in their fleet yet.
Yet, but eventually it will become electric.
They haven't made such a commitment.
All right, actually, can you just elaborate on that, Ms. Agnostu?
Yeah, actually, Mr. Corbett may be able to,
Yeah, I'll
or
take that,
Mr.
Sandy. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
explain.
Yeah, I
exactly.
mean, the Lincoln, right now, Lincoln has got in the works some EV, but most of the EVs that are being manufactured, there's been a slowdown because there hasn't been consumer demand for them. So a lot of the manufacturers like Volvo and a couple of other manufacturers have actually moved out the EV coming into the dealership showrooms into 2035. So right now we have one plug-in, the Corsair, but there are 3 other models that are gas engine that are going to be sold. I don't know if the business pencils were just showing EV products in that showroom. Now, the way the satellite works, yes, there's going to be no test drives, no service, no parts, no nothing. But as far as the sales goes, everything I stated and on the record was correct. But as far as EVs on the showroom, it's probably going to be 1 out of 3.
Okay, All right. Thank you for that clarification.
No problem. And sorry, because about the glare, I'm in the car pulled over. I'm sorry.
As long as you're not driving.
No, I'm not driving now.
All right, so that's clear. So that I think the operational plan on this as proposed is the critical part of what the finding is. So that has to be very clearly spelled out in our report. And will be part of the condition also.
Understood.
All right. I'm going to make a motion to close.
Chair Shanda,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shabeta,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown, Commissioner Yoon.
Aye.
And we need revised plans and revised EAS. And we will schedule this for January decision.
Madam Chair, if possible, the board has been very considerate. If possible, could you squeeze us in for December 9th or 10th decision? The changes are extremely minor and we can get them in this week. I mean, like minutes, it literally will take minutes to revise this.
We have, okay, so here's the issue. We have many cases lined up for decision for December. And so it's going to just delay our ability to, putting the resolution unless.
Yeah, Sandy, I'm good for January. That's okay.
Early January, we will do an early.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Early
and the
January is
submission
January
date-
6th and
And the
7th.
submission date for December is this Thursday.
Yes.
So that's, I mean, you have EAS and and all the notes. So we will do an early January and that is, when is it? 9?
December 19th.
No.
January 6th or 7th.
7th and submission date is December 19th.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great
Thank the
day.
board
Thank
for
you, everybody.
their
Thank you.
patience and
Thank you.
happy holidays. And my entire team, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great holiday.
Yes, great. Thank you. Yes.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Item number 16, 2024-23 BZ 334 Douglas Street, Brooklyn.
I think this
This is Ms.
Lisa-
Arantia.
Also Lisa, Tia,
Who else is with your team, Ms. Arantia?
Jessica.
I am. Jessica Chorus.
Hello.
Anyone else?
Anyone else?
No, that's it.
Okay, raise your right hands. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Please state your name for the record and proceed to respond to the board's comments at review session.
Lisa Orantia, Ackerman LLP, on behalf of the applicant. We're very happy that the board is satisfied with the findings, and I'll just turn to Jessica Chorus to respond to request for clarification from Commissioner Otley Brown.
Yes, thanks, Lisa. Hi, good afternoon. Jessica Chorus from Chorus Consulting here on behalf of the applicant. I did attend the virtual review session, and thank you for your review of the submitted letter. And I'm very pleased that it was satisfactory. I heard your comment on the carrying costs during the sellout period and would like to offer some clarification on the record. This is a common cost for condo sales pro formas. I haven't submitted a lot of condo analyses in the recently. So if you went back to some past submissions, you might not have seen it. But it simply said, these carrying costs during the sales period are the sponsor's responsibility for paying the monthly maintenance expenses, operating costs, real estate taxes, and any continued loan interest while they are the owner of the condominium. The contractor has left, they've gotten their CFO or TCFO, they're starting to bring in brokers and salespeople and interested parties. And in the meanwhile, they're still responsible for making sure the lights are turning on, that the toilets are flushing, that the hallways are clean, and all the any sort of maintenance that goes along with an empty condo building. So I did see that there was the line was showing up in Schedule B. And that's probably what raised a red flag for you. It is not a construction cost. It's an investment that the developer has to continue to make to maintain the building while they're trying to sell it out.
Okay, it's new. I've checked for the past 2 years, and you seem to be you and Capolino are the only two who have included this line item, period, as separate and apart from the development costs and the soft costs during the entire construction period. So what I wanted to know specifically, because it's a change that I've seen, because I went through then, after reading this, I went through 2024, all the financials, and I noticed you're right, it's just for condos, and I went through 2023 and I didn't see it. So this is the first time I saw it. So here's the question. Usually the carrying cost during the construction period is carried in the soft cost. So my question to you is, are you just taking what was originally in the construction period and pulling it out to clarify, or are you adding something in that hasn't been added in previously? Because you are the only consultant who does it. So therefore, this is more of an operational decision that we're going to have to make that will allow the creep up in development costs after we have spent a history here at the board trying to make sure that the development costs aren't amplified any more than they have to, as in that's why we were pushing everybody to use more SWIP, because there was a creep up until it became crazy. And we know that development costs do drive the ask. So I'm going to ask you to put this request in writing, and I'm going to do some extra research on my own, and then we'll come to a decision as to whether or not going forward, this is going to be a cost that's accepted, or a cost whereby if you include it, I'm just going to deduct it when I do my analysis and not give you any credit for it in my analysis and my final decision. So I'd appreciate it if you do put all of that information in writing for me, and I'm going to do some research on my end. How's that?
Understood. That's fair. And yeah, like I said, this is after the construction is concluded and the developer remains responsible for the sponsor units, taking care of them, paying the taxes. So it shouldn't be in Schedule B. That was my mistake. It's not a soft cost line item. It should only be part of the investment they have to continue to make so that the units, the taxes are paid and maintained, the lights are on, so that they don't lose their units before they're sold. They don't want to end up not paying their taxes. So, but absolutely, I'll put it all in writing. It'll be nice and neat and organized as I try my best to do, and we'll make it official submission.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
All right, let's go to the public.
Let's go to the public then.
Okay, the case that we're currently discussing is 2024-23 BZ 334 Douglas Street, Brooklyn. Should you wish to provide testimony, dial 669-254-5252. At the prompt, you will enter the webinar ID number 161-959-2426 and press the pound sign. At the prompt after that, you'll press the pound sign only. Once you're permitted in, you'll press *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute as you're calling in on the phone. And if you're in the Zoom room already and wish to participate, please raise your Zoom hand, which is the little hand at the bottom of your computer screen. Once you are recognized in any format, you will have 3 minutes in which to provide testimony. Much time.
How much time you will need? We definitely cannot schedule this for December, so it will be one of the Januaries. That's the
Jessica, I think we talked about being ready in 2 weeks for a follow-up submission.
Yeah.
Um,
Submission due for December this week, and we have a lot of cases for December, so I cannot schedule this for December. It will have to be in January. We can aim for early January.
yeah, we can do January 6th, 7th. And is it possible to close the hearings today?
No, no, this is a critical finding, Ms. Arantia.
Understood.
Yeah, I shouldn't have a problem making that timeline for January 6th or 7th hearing. That would be
Submission.
sufficient.
Yeah, December 19th is the submission date.
Perfect.
Commissioner Yoon, Assistant Counsel, asked, was your question regarding the vacancy rate, was that answered?
I was just providing an anecdotal example of vacancy in pro formas that I had used on the development side for pro formas and rental buildings. So I didn't have
That
a
was in
question.
response to your question.
All right, that's right, yes. It seems like eons have gone by. Sorry, okay, all right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
New
you.
case,
Thank you.
have a good holiday. New cases, item number 17, 2024-09 BZ, 401 Park Avenue, Brooklyn. You want to come up? Hey. You're representing? Yeah. Excuse me?
Yeah.
Oh, you're objecting, so you're not
Okay.
the representative. Okay, you have to wait till we open up to the public. Okay, okay.
I'm just checking, Chase, can you hear me on the recording? General Counsel?
We can hear you.
I can hear you.
Yeah.
What was the question?
Never mind, never mind.
Okay,
So who is this? It's Jordan Most. Oh, it is Jordan Most. Okay.
okay.
And Kevin Williams?
Is Amber also part of this? Okay.
Amber.
Let them in the room.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we're waiting for the others to appear.
Sure.
Ms. Carlin?
Yeah, she's in.
Thank you, Amber. Okay, everyone raise, is that it, Mr. Mose? Mr. Mose, is that all your participants?
There may be one more coming in, but we're okay to start up.
Okay, let me raise your right hands. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board to respond honestly to the board member questions?
Yeah.
Okay, please state your name for the record and proceed to respond to the board's comments at review session. What does that sound?
There's a s-
Amber, I think you need to mute or something.
Jordan Most from BCLP on behalf of the applicant. We of course heard the comments at the review session. I'll try and just run through a few of the let's say the more easily addressed comments that were made in the thorough review by the chair. Good afternoon, by the way. First, with respect to the side yard is not a space that's used for recreation space or used at all by the school. There is I think, as the chair mentioned, the large space in the cellar of the building is used for multiple activities, and these are high school age students. There are no organized sports, but it is sort of a social / recreation space that is in the building.
the ask that question is because that particular workspace has a ramp that goes up to the rear yard. And since the cellar is not at all ADA accessible, I'm wondering if that ramp is used for ADA accessibility. And if that's the case, then somebody is using the side yard.
Right, I will find out. I don't believe that to be the case, but I understand what you're saying.
Right, and then you need to provide ADA accessibility between the cellar and the ground floor to make it, to make this program work.
With the plan, we'll also address the plans with regard to the labeling, I think can be better and more attuned to a school rather than what may appear like a trade school labeling, but it should be more in keeping with the use group 3 school labeling. There was some various points. There was a question of whether there were buses that are used at this facility, and there are not. There have been buses, and buses will sometimes appear on the street or even parked at or near the building, but there are school buses of other schools. And I think DOT was even has been there, and they haven't observed any bus issue at the site. And we certainly agree with your comments, Chair Chanda, regarding the closure of both sides of Taffy Place. That seems maybe extreme. Hopefully, we're able to get DOT to back down off of that that restriction. It doesn't seem fully necessary.
With regard to the school buses, do you know what schools that they're
I don't. I think it even says on the side of the school buses that may be in that photograph, but I can't tell you what it says. But we can tell you that. But that's not a.
Looking at the Google map, there was one bus that was, I think it may have been under the same umbrella organization of this school. It was also one of the Talmudic organizations. So, you know, if it is under the same umbrella, better coordination needs to be done then.
Okay. We'll talk to the broker. I heard the sort of the debate between the letter from Urban Cartographic, the map from Urban Cartographics, and the broker's letter, and that the broker's letter I think would better address the issue. It certainly, I think it also made reference to the buses, I think in sort of a generalized reference, but if that's not relevant, it should probably come out of the broker's letter.
And I think that again is everything that is being stated seems to add to the fact that there was very little effort made to look for a site. It was really a cut and paste of other cases that's been put together for this. And that's not helpful to you.
Right.
When you're presenting the case to the board.
Yeah, I think the point is well taken that the board doesn't really need a 40,000 square foot lot. Of course, a building can have a vertical component, which makes other properties then available, and that should be examined and reviewed as part of the consideration.
So will that be done? Broker letter be provided?
We'll modify that. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Right. So will a revised broker letter be provided that look at other sites with less constraining of a site?
Yes.
Conditions? Yeah. Okay.
And we will also, well, I think those were sort of, if I could, sort of light items that seemed manageable. Much more complex are questions regarding the DEP letter that we got about 2.5 weeks ago, and then the DOT letter, which was really earlier in the week and then finalized yesterday. We can speak to that. And I'm also now aware of the letter that was received from the neighbor behind us, the Hercules facility. And so we'll obviously we have to respond to all of these things. And we heard about your very guarded concern about the air quality issues and the likes of that. So I don't know if you do want us to specifically discuss. Certainly GZA is here. Kevin and Amber can speak to DEP DEP response, the responses to the DEP letter and the DOT letter.
I would say, given the technical complexity of this, I really want our sister agencies to review this and give us the guidance.
Right.
So I think all your responses to our comments and to DEP and DOT comments should be done in an analytical manner and submitted for all our reviews. Unless there's anything else that needs to be added that I think all of this can be answered
Right.
in a written format.
It seems like that would be best and
Yeah,
probably most efficient.
yeah. Okay. Anything else that any one of you want to add? Any questions from the commissioners for the team? Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Mose, if you could in your writing, a revision of the narrative, discuss more in like just greater detail the programmatic needs that the school has. Right now, we're a little light on information, and I understand that you are going to change the site search conditions to require smaller square footage, but why do you need what you are requesting?
I agree with our council, because having an understanding of the programmatic need also helps us understand why the search criteria has to be of a certain size and dimension. Even though I know it is not a variance, where variance programmatic need is a critical component of the uniqueness, of one of the findings, but in this case, it guides to the need for a specific size or layout. Given that you have workshops and classrooms occurring on the cellar floor and you have ground floor use and it's not ADA accessible. So this is really not for special needs students. It's for people who can use the stairs. So having a vertical tiered classroom is not an issue in that case. They can continue to use the stairs and it would be another form of recreation for them. So, those are critical factors.
Understood. Yes, so I assume that was, yes. I'll modify, I'll include that, I'll address that, I guess that was, Jella said that regarding, the statement. We'll make those revisions.
Okay.
So that it, I guess, dovetails with what the broker search is doing.
Right.
If I could just, Amber Cartalian with GZA, if I could just add one thing in response to comments related to the DOT school safety letter, specifically the signage modifications. I agree, Chair, in your statement that designating the entirety of the east side of Taffy as no standing anytime would, basically be in opposition of the findings related to, the operations of surrounding uses. That is something that we would like to discuss with DOT on a call. But if I will say, regardless of the fact that there's not, significant vehicle drop-offs associated with this school, we do feel, just given that there wouldn't be spillover to adjacent uses, that the designation of the frontages, at least along one, either Park or Taffy, would be beneficial to the school in that it would provide kind of a buffer around the site to eliminate conditions where we have, vehicles staged in front of the school and along the sidewalks there.
Okay. I think that needs to be more written out and analytically proven as to how much at all would be needed. I definitely don't think it would be Taffy. If anything, maybe a very small portion of the Park Avenue front. I'm not sure about the entirety because that's a pretty, it's over 100 feet long.
Right.
If everybody's walking, I'm not sure given the need for parking for the businesses that are located there, I need a much stronger justification to convince me on that.
Yeah, Chair, this is Kevin Williams from GZA. So I definitely think the response is warranted. I would just indicate, there's still a small portion of drop-offs. There are service vehicles that service the building. There's trash pickup that services the building, emergency vehicle access, all of these types of things, and it's standard process on all schools, regardless of the modal splits associated, have some portion dedicated to school no standing. But we'll document this and reciprocally address the potential impact to the district in general in terms of its operations. So we understand you need a stronger rationale for that, but I think maybe we can meet halfway there. But we'll provide a substantive basis for that as is warranted.
Okay, all right. Thank you for understanding our concern. If there are any other questions, we have somebody here who wants to speak as part of the public.
But let me call the case first and then.
First, we'll
run
pause the
clock,
case
And then
call
the clock,
case
and then he can come up and speak.
Thank you.
Okay, the case that we're currently discussing is 2024-09 BZ, 401 Park Avenue, Brooklyn. Should you wish to discuss, dial 669-254-5252. At the prompt, you'll enter the Weber ID number 161-959-2426 and press the pound sign.
No, who sent it?
At the next prompt, you'll press the pound sign only. Once you're permitted in, you'll have to press *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute. You're calling in on the phone. And if you're in the Zoom room already and wish to participate, please raise your Zoom hand, which is the little hands at the bottom of your computer screen. Once you are recognized, you will have 3 minutes in which to provide testimony. Please state your name.
Good afternoon. My name is Thomas Weiss. I'm with Vishnik McGovern Melizio. I'm appearing here on behalf of Hercules this afternoon. Thank you, commissioners. And I thank you for the thorough review this morning. And I want to mention the reason we're here in person is really to show and express how vehemently we object to this plan or this proposal for a school here. The school, and at the risk of trying not to be too repetitive from what you've all said this morning and in terms of my client's objection letter, but the school is directly adjacent to my client's space. And by the way, I think it's really important to note that there's a separate litigation that is in process between my client and the school, and it has to do with the space. Part of the space, we have a claim for adverse possession, and beyond that, just the potential construction from the school to our site is potentially disruptive. Beyond that, as noted in my client's letter, and as we intend to further back up through experts, through traffic consultants, through noise engineers, and so on, there are really serious problems with bringing a school into the premises right adjacent to my client. My client has been in the premises for over 75 years. They're in the business of dealing with the manufacture, restoration of very heavy duty commercial aircraft parts, including to the defense of our country. The disruption that would be caused from a school, whether from a small standing zone, whether from pickup and drop off, just to the flow of traffic for my client to be able to operate, would be disastrous. Beyond that, the potential of over time being more and more and more limited to what my client can be able to do as a result of complaints, potential lawsuits, the restrictiveness it would cause to my client would be devastating not only to my client in general, but the hundreds, potentially thousands of people that are employed through this chain of commerce. And so I don't think, given, as the board had noted, that there are certainly potentially better areas, better places where a school could be placed. This is by far probably the worst place that you could place a school of girls, right next to a building in industry that has to use such serious chemicals, such heavy duty heating things that really could impact on the ability of my client to be able to produce on behalf of these very important industries. They're licensed on behalf of Boeing, on behalf of Lockheed, and they manufacture, they take care of parts for these companies. As I indicated before, they take they deal with the aerospace industry and the defense of our country, and any disruption in the operations would just have tremendous impact. So I know that we're far away from getting a permit approved, but I did want to make these points, and I do want to stress that in the continuance, we do intend to come back, provide those reports for the board to consider. And ultimately, we believe that this is just a permit that should not be approved by the board. So
I just have a question. The reports that you will be providing are related to traffic,
yes,
noise, air quality?
exactly, yes, and chemicals.
I think from your letter, it was clear that the school, you know that the school is there because there's a lawsuit going on. But do you use that entire block frontage for all your business operations? Including park and class, class one is where your site is, your building is fronting on. So do you also rely on a lot of traffic and movement and other things along Park Avenue and Taffy?
So, Madam Chair, I do want to mention that the president of the company is here, and he could better address some of these operational issues than I can. So I think it may be best to actually address that question to him.
Sorry, before you go on, our assistant counsel had a question.
I just wanted to clarify a little bit of our procedure. Generally, people who are speaking on behalf of a public comment only get 3 minutes to discuss this.
Well, I allowed it because this is, you have written a very detailed letter and I wanted to hear.
Yes, I understand that we made an exception in this case. However, if in the future you wanted to bring anybody in with you, it might be more useful to have them submit all of their work in writing to us. We review anything that comes before us. But if there's anything specific and different from what you put in writing that you want to testify before the board, that is a better use of your time.
Understood. I think if Madam Chair, you want the question that you specifically directed to me addressed, I think my client could address it better than I.
And please do make all your submissions, because not only are we going to review it, we are going to share it with the applicant. And it is, whatever document you provide is open to public, anybody can review it. But it helps us understand it and gives us enough time to review it. So when we let the applicant know of the time of submission, the same, I would think in this case, given the complexity of the site, I would apply that to you for you to make those submissions so that we as a board have enough time to review it and come and be able to opine on it at our next hearing.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, good.
Please state your name.
Anthony Rizzo,
Please, Mr. Rizzo.
and your question was?
Based on the current operation of the school and your operation, what are the immediate issues that you have been confronted with, especially with regards to parking or noise or air quality, that you can just?
Well, our concern is, it's an industrial area, and the traffic with the trucks that we load and unload there, they always go around and they go past the school because there's one-way streets. And that's one concern of the added traffic and problems that may come about because of that. Also, I mean, where we put out exhausts from our ovens, we're more like a foundry. And we've been there 75 years. We employ 50 people from the neighborhood. And I'm concerned that if this permit is allowed, you know, what's going to happen future on down the line as far as, you know, complaints about the noise, about the fumes, about, you know, excessive traffic. That's my concern.
So the special permit text is very clear, and I will read out the language of the special permit. There are 5 findings, and I was going through each one of the findings. And one of the findings, it says that an adequate separation from noise, traffic, and other adverse effects of the surrounding non-residential districts is achieved through the use of sound attenuation, exterior wall and window construction, or by provisions of adequate open area along lot line of the zoning lot. And all of this basically, always when the board has looked at it from the point of view, it's not your responsibility to address the issue to improve the condition of the school. It is the responsibility of the school to improve the condition for on its site, for itself, from it being creating an adverse effect on its surrounding neighbors. So the responsibility solely lies on the applicant, in this case, the school, to correct all the issues so that if they have to put up a 20-foot high curtain wall to make sure there's no exhaust coming, it's on their property. I'm just throwing.
That's good to know.
I'm throwing an illogical
Right.
statement, but it is their responsibility to make sure that it meets all the requirements on its site through conditions, measures, physical, operational, anything on its site. If they have to provide a very high intensity exhaust system that purifies the air that's coming from your exhaust into their school, that's what they will have to provide to make it work. That way, there shouldn't be, that should prevent them from, or anybody or the parents of the children from suing you for the exhaust, because you're doing what you're doing per your codes and regulations. It is the school that is locating there, knowingly what is there legally.
Yeah, I mean, it's not my part to say, but it just seems not the right area to put a school. It's very industrial.
I understand. Go ahead.
Do you work on that site?
Yes, I do.
And have you noticed any school buses passing by that site?
Yes.
And with regularity, or do you know?
Well, I don't think.
Do you think kids come off the bus to go into school?
No, not to go to the school. No, they seem to be school buses for other children, but not for the
So
school.
you don't see any like buses dropping kids off at that school?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And this is a note to the applicant. When you do make your submission, please do send a copy of it to, I think we should take down Mr. Weiss.
Yes.
His contact information.
Sure.
So that, and share that with Mr. Jordan Mose.
I'll send it to Mr.
So
Weiss.
any submission that is made to our board is also sent to Mr. Weiss.
I also want to just say that if the reviewing agencies that are more expert in reviewing the data about your operation, if they make a determination that the school cannot adequately protect its students from the legal uses around it, they will then state a recommendation that the school not operate in this location. because it can't be controlled. So it won't fall on you. It would just be a response to the school that, I'm sorry, there is nothing you can do to control the situation. Has happened.
Bring it to you.
I just want to say that has happened in the past, so it could happen.
Okay. Thank you for your participation. I want to see if there is anyone else who wants
Thank
to
you.
speak on this case.
I didn't see anyone raise their hands.
Yeah. Can you repeat it again? Just make sure.
Sure. The case that we discussed
you.
is 2024-09 BZ, 401 Park Avenue, Brooklyn. The clock ran out, so. Did you want?
How much time you would need? I think you need a lot of time to respond to all these comments. I'm thinking more like a February.
Can you hear me? So,
Yes.
oh, I could just make just two brief comments. We'll of course respond in writing, but because the school, there's a bit of a disconnect, I think, in that, there's the school, right or wrong, the school has been operating, and the school has been operating without complaining about traffic or without complaining about noise or vibration. So concern that the so-called installation of the school.
Mr. Most, we know how things play out. I think right now, because the school is operating on a false CO, being quiet would be the wisest thing for anybody. So that's not a very good response.
Okay.
Good try.
Okay.
We haven't found out how much I'm gonna.
How much time would you need? I mean, if you can get back to our project manager, because this is not going to be heard in January. It's most likely sometime in February at the earliest possible, because there's extensive amount of comments that we have raised, DOT and DEP raised, and those all need to be all tied together for us to continue with the review. I don't want it to be.
Yeah, Chair and Jordan, so just from the environmental perspective, I mean, we might finalize this after. I don't think the responses will take us so long, but the responses from the agencies will, and the back and forth. And so we have a clean set of responses and as near a resolution as possible. I think that the February consideration is reasonable. So.
So do you want to put a date so that Mr. Weiss is available?
I would say whatever date we put, we also notify Mr. Wise, and please, you also need to abide by that same timeline and submit. So should we say February?
I'm okay. I think
February?
So early February would give you a January 23rd submission date.
maybe that should be later then. That's
Later than January, so then
What's
it's
the second?
February 24th, 25th, your submission date would be February 6th.
Yeah, that's good.
okay. Is that okay, Kevin?
Yeah.
February 6th.
Number, is that, I think that's reasonable, right?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
That will be February 25th with the submission date of February 6th.
So both of you will be making the submission on the same date, and we will forward the information that we have received from Mr. Weiss to your team also. Project manager, please take a note. If there is any change in the scheduled hearing, please notify both the applicant's team and Mr. Weiss.
Will do.
Stella has his business card.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience.
Thank you so much for waiting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 18, 2024-36 BZ, 26 City Island Avenue, the Bronx. This is Stephanie Marazzi.
It's in your email. What does it say?
It just shows, this is they have,
It's on
yeah, the continuous use,
What happened?
The person.
They need a submission.
but they have like.
Who?
polls.
This applicant.
Dara, did you get
Submission. Stephanie Marazzi?
Julian sent an email with a link to it from a document from October 30th.
Okay.
62 to 65 is all.
Oh, on City Island.
Those were all granted. Those were all.
City Island.
It's 74. So she sent an email at 11:50 because the board could. This morning. Questions what happens after 20.
I had too many emails, I'm sorry.
There we
Google Street View, 2008, Flickr photo,
Are they ready?
9, 10.
Is there anybody else with your team?
Yes, Theodore Karikas should be in the waiting room as well. He's the property owner.
That was open since
Is both Sophia and Theodore coming on?
She could join as well. Yeah, she's one of the property owners as well.
Chair, so.
Sorry, we were just, go ahead, as where.
So, no, Sophia and Theodore Karikas
Sophia, okay. I
and
see.
Theodore.
And Theodore, okay, yeah.
Anyone else? That's it, Stephanie?
That
Ms.
should be
Mar-
it. Thank you. Yeah.
So once they're in, I'll swear them in. Could you, Mr. Karikas, can you sort of, thank you, that's.
So, sorry.
Is Sophia, Mrs. joining or?
Yeah, and
No,
Steph.
you can move on.
Oh, all right, so let me swear you both in. Raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board?
Sophia is not in, Sophia is.
No,
she's not-
he said you could, she's not joining.
Oh,
Can we
she's
go?
not joining,
Yeah.
okay.
Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
Yes, I do.
State your name for the record and proceed to respond to the board's comments at review session.
Good afternoon, Chair Chanda, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. My name is Stephanie Marazzi from the law firm Hirsch & Singer & Epstein. I am land use counsel to Karikas Lobster Box, the owner of the property, and we have Ted Karikas here from Karikas Lobster Box LLC. I attended review session and I'm prepared to respond. I believe I overheard the board looking at the continuous use submission that we submitted on October 30th, which was a more fulsome analysis of continuous use as opposed to the initial affidavit from Ted that we had submitted with our initial application. So we are hopeful that the board either, now or with the next submission has a chance to review and finds it satisfactory. I think we did our consultant, Urban Cartographics, did a good job of going year by year as to the greatest extent possible to establish continuous use from the lapse of the certificate of occupancy in 1975 all the way to the closure of the Lobster Box restaurant in 2022. And I just want to also note that after that restaurant closure, our client has executed a lease with a new restaurant tenant as of June 2024. And that tenant, it has been undertaking renovations since then that are still underway, and I believe they will be opening very shortly. As for the board's other questions, we can certainly follow up with a written submission to address some of them. I understand the board would like to see additional photos, I believe, of the parking area. But I would just like to confirm that's what the board is looking for. Those photos can include shots of the lighting that sort of shines into the parking area. I will note that it shines away from the residents, the adjacent residences, but we can capture that in the new photographs that we take. I understand the board would also like to clarify the height of the fences. We can provide the height of the existing fences, and my understanding is also that the fence along the side lot line adjacent to the residential homes at least partially needs to be upgraded to meet the 6-foot standard under zoning, which will be done. So we can clarify that as well. We can clarify the existing and proposed entrance and exit. None of the exits and entrances will change. The primary entrance is on City Island Avenue. That's also the primary exit. There is a curb cut on Rochelle Street, but that's for the most part gated off and used just for truck deliveries. And there's not a curb cut on Belden Street. And I believe the other request was for a FEMA map, which we can provide, certainly.
And what is the being height of the fence, the lumen spread?
Sorry, there was a question about lumen spread. So we can provide that if the board would like to see that study.
That would be
Yeah.
helpful.
Okay,
And
yeah,
the location of the light poles.
sure, we can do that. A lumen spread analysis, right?
So regarding the conditions compliance from the previous grant, while it would be helpful to provide it, I just think it's been so many years. And I want to be able to ensure that whatever conditions we put in place is more aligned with what the current condition is in the area. So if you, if some of the conditions, like I think because you have residential use, along the rear lot line, it would be important for us to know what is the, how much of fencing and buffering is being provided, and how are you ensuring that the fence is not going to be damaged by any vehicles that are parked there. And I think maybe that's why the bumpers were asked, and the lighting was not raised then, but that would be something that we would want to make sure that the lumen spread is minimum, kept to the site. And there were also, I think there were conditions of planting. I don't know if there's any existing planting or if you're planning to provide any additional planting as a buffer along the residential lot line. If you are, it would be great. And if you can indicate those on the plans, that would be wonderful.
Okay, yeah, I can look into that. I mean, the approved plans are very scant on planting details, but I can talk to the client and see what we can provide.
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly whatever you had in the past, and making it better based on the current conditions. And so it would be helpful if you could kind of just educate us and remind us of what's there now and what's and what are these improvements in the past works, what do not work, and what can we do to make it better.
Okay.
Primary entrance and exit is from City Island. Okay. And you said truck delivery is from the Rochelle.
Yeah.
I do not know. I just am looking at the continuous use, and I think barring a couple of little holes in there of a year or two, till 2022, there's a pretty thorough analysis that's been provided. So I'm satisfied with it, but
I'm satisfied too. I'm looking at it now. I didn't see it when I
Yeah,
was reviewing the case.
Yeah, I'm surprised that
knew?
none of us seem to have missed it. But
I'm also satisfied with it.
okay, so it seems the board is satisfied with the continuous use. Okay. Okay, if there aren't any other questions or comments, let's then go to the public.
The case we are currently discussing is 2024-36 BZ, 26 City Island Avenue, the Bronx. Should you wish to comment, dial 669-254-5252. At the prompt, you'll enter the webinar ID number 161-959-2426 and press the pound sign. At the next prompt, you will press the pound sign only. Once you're permitted in, you'll press *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute if you're calling in on the phone. And if you're in the Zoom room already and wish to participate, please raise your Zoom hand, which is the little hand on the bottom of your computer screen. Once you're recognized in any format, you will have 3 minutes in which to provide testimony.
How much time, Ms. Marazzi, you would need to make your submission? December
Well,
possible. I'm just telling you, December.
yeah. Okay, I mean, I think January should be perfectly fine.
Okay, early January or later January?
Early January should work, yeah.
So the submission date for early January,
It's December 19th.
December 19th.
That's exactly a month. That works. Thank you.
Just waiting for the clock.
You need a break?
Okay. All right. So we will see you in January. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 19, 2024-49 BZ, 3454 Nostrand Avenue, Brooklyn. Elise Fullader.
Yep. Anyone else who will want to join with you, Ms. Fullader?
Hi, there should also be a Joseph D'Amato.
Yes. Anyone else?
Anyone else in the team?
No.
Okay, so I'm waiting for Mr. D'Amato to appear and then I will swear you in. Thank you. Please good afternoon, Mr. D'Amato. Please raise your right hands. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
Please state your name for the record and proceed to respond to the board's comments at review session.
Thank you so much. Elise Fullader from Eric Polanik PC. I'm here with Mr. D'Amato. He is the representative from the architect's office. We heard your comments. Firstly, as you may remember, this was closed as an SOC application, and in the last submission, we submitted, the graffiti was painted and showed striping, but we're happy to show you spoke with the ownership. He said he went there last week, the graffiti's still gone, but we're happy to provide more photographs, more up to date, showing that the graffiti is gone and the striping still looks good. So we will do that. And then the second question was in regards to traffic and what we're doing about that. It is a phase 2. This is was almost unanimously approved by the community board. It's a very important community store. And it was thoroughly reviewed by your board in 2020. I don't know if you remember, we did lumens plans and various things like that. But we do understand the neighbors' concerns, and me and Joseph spoke with Starbucks today, and they are implementing over the past few weeks. They've been doing that throughout stores in the city, equipment that works to make the process a lot faster in the queuing. And I'm going to go over to Joseph just because he works a lot with Starbucks to just explain that a little, and we can get that in writing from Starbucks. Joseph, to you.
So in regards to the speediness of what Starbucks offers and their offerings in regards to the warm food to optimize.
I hear you. There's like a staticky sound that's coming from your end. So it will be very difficult to transcribe it also.
Do you hear me better now?
Yes.
Okay.
And if it doesn't, I can say what he's going to say if it doesn't end up working. So give it a try, and if not, I'll say it.
Okay. Does everyone hear me okay?
Better.
Okay, great. So what I was basically saying was to optimize the actual production or the preparedness of the food and beverages that Starbucks offers. Starbucks has implemented in the past couple of months, equipment to speed up the process, in regards to the warming, which would consider all the warm foods that they're warming up. The equipment that they've introduced allows for that food to be prepared and ready versus something that would need to be order-based, where they would have to order, the customer would order it and then prepare it, which would, reduce the time and speed this up at least, twice as fast. In regards to the cold beverages and warm beverages, all the beverage is produced now with machines and equipment that produces and mixes these ingredients and prepares the drinks. So that's also roughly about 2 times faster than what it typically would take to produce these beverages. So the speediness of the actual response from, the customer ordering and the product being provided to the customers is definitely sped up the process at least twice as fast. So,
And they haven't yet done it at this store, so that they anticipate, yeah.
This one in particular hasn't received the equipment yet, but it is slotted to receive the equipment in the next couple of months, which could, that timing could change depending on what this hearing, and what comes about from this. So if it needs to get done faster, it potentially can happen sooner.
So it would be helpful if it could be rather than qualitatively stating it, if you can also back it up with some quantitative.
We don't. Okay, sorry. So for this project, because we didn't need, it is a type 2, we haven't hired a traffic engineer on it. That is not.
Understand.
But we are happy to, in writing, provide any information about that equipment. And this was just to address that neighbor's concern.
So, Ms. Follett, I think what I would like is not just a quantitative statement, but I'm sure Starbucks documents or somewhere would say, by doing this, you increase the traffic fold from in a minute, you will be processing 10 more vehicles versus 8 vehicles. I don't know. I'm just throwing numbers out there, right? So having that analysis or clarification backup will be helpful. It's not just a qualitative to help your case and to help make your argument stronger. That's what I'm suggesting.
Okay.
So see, and also provides like specifically applicable to your site. What is the peak? You said your peak number of vehicles that come in a day. You said it's 100 to 150. So it's a very small site. So during the peak period, what is the number of vehicles that come in, and how much would this take away the wait time? And that can be looked at in an analytical way to help and answer that question. So I don't know if for that, if you need a traffic engineer or not, honestly, I do not know, but I think if you were to look at what the industrial standards and requirements are and what it would achieve, and if you were to use that as a factor, maybe it can help you answer that question again.
Okay.
Because also, I think, like I said, if you're saying you're going to get 100 to 150 vehicles during the daytime, the peak period is morning peak, whatever that morning. And I think Starbucks will be able to tell you at this location, what is the morning peak and what is the morning peak and from their delivery thing, they can tell you what is the total number of delivery they get. Orders they issue in the drive-through. They will be able to tell you that information. For that, you don't need a traffic engineer.
Yeah,
And
no
then-
problem. I'm just trying to clarify what's been done, because this is kind of like a reinstatement because we were unable to.
I understand that, but there is a question that has been raised by an opposition. You need to respond.
Of course, that's why we're trying to address it.
Yeah, and you need to make sure that the board is right.
Chair.
And this also goes to help you answer the air quality. I know you have said that it is below the threshold, and we agree, because if your daily trip volume is 150, which is less than the peak 170, then that answers that question. But it further supports and backs up your argument. Okay.
Yeah, and that information was taken, by the way, was used because, like I said, this converted to a Starbucks in 2020. And that information was taken from that when we converted, because we already had it, because it wasn't a Starbucks before then. And we applied in 2018.
Right. Yeah. Before that it was Popeyes, right?
Yeah.
Ms. Fullader, have you provided the DOB objection or A1 that we decided to do?
No, so what happens is that a week or two ago, council told us that this was required because originally it was told that it wasn't. So it takes a little bit of time, but Joseph's office is working on it.
Just want
Any other questions or clarification? Let's go to the public.
Okay.
Oh, I had one. No, I did not have any questions on this one.
Good.
Mm.
Okay,
Oh,
the
there-
case that, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The last thing is, there was one more comment. We'll make sure that there is a no radio, be nice to your neighbors, turn down your radios.
Yeah.
That's what we forgot. There you go.
Is there a stop sign when a vehicle is exiting onto, is there a stop sign there now?
There is a stop sign, yes, on the right-hand side.
It's there.
It was a requirement, it was a condition.
I didn't see it in the plan, but I may have, there's so many notes on this. It is possible that I may have overlooked it. I just want to check it on the plan. I'm just looking at the plan unless,
I'm looking.
there is this a note that says illuminated exit signage, but I don't know what that means. It just says exit here, or it says stop and then exit or something like that.
Will,
No, it's not there.
we can, I see where you're looking to. We can take a picture to show more specifically what that says and submit that.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Yeah, there's a picture, but you can't see what the sign says on it.
Right.
It's dark.
You're looking at the back of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can provide those photos for sure.
And I would say if you can put up the no radio sign now, if that's possible.
No problem. Sorry, Tracy was raising.
You know, I actually thought one of the devices that you will be using, which I know Commissioner Otley Brown had mentioned, is sometimes instead of waiting for the queue to extend onto the street, you will allow for people to place the order online, and then they can wait in the parking area for pickup. Is that something also being considered here?
I don't know if we know the answer. I think we might have to get back to you on that.
Yeah, I would have to check with operations, but I believe that's also, you know, the mobile order is definitely something that they've used in all their drive-throughs. I wouldn't know if they're using that specific type of mobile order procedure here. I would have to check with operations and get back.
Okay.
Ms. Banky has her hand up.
I was just going to say, I looked at the type 2 prerequisite, and since this is existing and not in a landmark district and no construction per se, that you could probably just revise the type 2 checklist and provide a statement to that effect. It wouldn't require LPC review. I'll send you an email.
Great. Let's go to the public. Did we go to the public?
No, I stopped it because.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So we started speaking.
Yes.
Okay. The case we're currently discussing is 2024-49BZ, 3454 Nostrand Avenue, Brooklyn. Should you wish to comment, 669-254-5252. At the prompt, you'll enter the webinar ID number 161-959-2426 and press the pound sign. At the prompt after that, you will press the pound sign only. Once you're permitted in, you will press *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute if you're calling in on the phone. And if you're in the Zoom room already, please raise your Zoom hand, which is the little hand at the bottom of your screen. Once you are recognized in any format, you will have 3 minutes in which to provide testimony.
While we wait, I can pull up the photo that shows that it's not a stop sign, it's a thank you sign.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
If Jella, you could take down the thank you. This is a part of the submission. If you just zoom in, the sign on the right.
Oh,
Yeah.
my eyes
It's
are that
interesting
good.
because I remember when this case came before us as a Popeyes, and even we were always very specific that there needed to be a stop sign at the end of that driveway. So it's interesting to see
Yeah,
Thank you for stopping.
that it wasn't kept.
yeah,
And then
so.
the back side of it, this is just, so you
Yeah,
can see here very clearly, there's no other signage.
right. And I can see from the photos, a little bit of sprucing is needed.
Careful with your.
Yeah, so do provide a stop sign there, that the plan should reflect that.
What was that? No, timer went off, but it was the wrong. Okay. It's a different timer.
How much time do you need to make these corrections?
We can make these
Joseph?
corrections fairly quick. Yeah, at least I can have these corrected immediately.
And then whatever, and then like a week or two, probably to contact Starbucks to answer that question about, to get the letter from them that talks about.
Right. The speediness of the operation and the
Yeah.
other mobile,
Because
use and other things. So I think definitely December is not possible. Let's aim for early January. If that works for the
Okay.
December 19th submission for that. Does that work?
Yep, no problem.
Oh, right, and add a note, thank you for reminding me, Commissioner Sheta wanted a note to be added, ABC, add a note to the plan indicating that ABC will be all times. Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay, I have a question, Commissioners, do you want to close or do you want to see the operational plan and other things? Because I feel I'd want to see it before I can be convinced of closing. I think we are there. It's just, I want to make sure all that information is. All right, let's,
Okay, we're finished? No more questions?
Yep.
Okay. Second call item from November
you.
18th. Thank you. Have a good holiday. 88-92 BZ, Volume 3, 3007 East Tremont Avenue, the Bronx. Mr. Dale? That's the.
Okay, I'll let him in. Anyone else from your team?
It is just myself today.
Okay,
Raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do so affirm.
Please state your name for the record and proceed to respond to the board's comments at review session.
My name is Todd Dale. I'm an attorney for the applicant. I did listen to the review session today and will respond now to the questions and with any follow-up submission as needed. First, with respect to the community board, so the board is aware, we met with the committee on September 10th, and they unanimously recommended approval of the application. The full board meeting may be taking place this week, or it may be adjourned to December. We still need to work out the schedule with the community board. In either case, we'll stay in touch with the community board, so any recommendation that they issue is provided to the record. With respect to the history of the site and the resolutions, just want to say we'll provide whatever the board needs for the record, but to provide a little bit of background, we did not provide the resolutions from the prior application that was associated with the site 247-35BZ for multiple reasons. One, because when this was granted under the current calendar number, it specifically states in the resolution that the prior action is superseded. And also when we looked at the archive file under all prior actions under the current calendar number, the prior resolutions were never included to the record. That said, we can provide them if they're needed, but we believe that they're superseded. And to provide a little bit of history, and this might relate to some of the other questions, Chair, that you raised, the reason they may not have provided is because often is the case with some of these historical records, they don't really fit necessarily with current times and uses. The original variance that was granted under that calendar number was for a lunch wagon that was going to be located on the site that became the current diner that we see. And related to that, you asked the question about how the 1980 resolution under the prior calendar number said parking was going to be eliminated. I looked at the old records, which we have here in the office, and that elimination of the parking was related to some tax lot numbers that don't exist anymore. So lacking any further information from the record, it appears that some of the removal of the parking may be related to lot numbers that don't exist or don't exist with the parking site. With respect to the parking, every action under the current calendar number has always included an approved plan reference the parking lot. It does go back to historically when this was really granted as the lunch wagon approval. They did request that parking be provided for customers on the site. So, you know, it's always been that way. We're happy to include the parking, you know, continuing the history of the site. And as noted, every prior set of approved plans, including the most recent one, reference the parking.
Thank you for that clarification, because as I was trying to gather the information from past resolution and no explanation was provided. But if I had those resolutions, I could have looked at it and I wouldn't have raised this question.
Nope, that's fine. So the question is you can let me know. I mean, we can put those old prior resolutions into the record if the board would like. We just were following the pattern of the prior actions where they weren't included because it said that that action was superseded. So you can tell me now, or the project manager can reach out to me later. It's public record. You can decide if you want them in the record or not, and we can add them.
On the board, I
Prior
know
resolutions are
we
required.
have the board, this particular board and prior board had asked for prior resolutions to be included, even though they were superseded, just to kind of see the continuity of the history and what, you know, how it changed, and just to get a better, clearer understanding and of the situation. So, yeah.
That's fine. So I'll make a note now to submit the 247-35 resolutions.
Okay.
Okay. We spoke about that. With respect to the compliance chart, I did see that there was a little graffiti at the site. We'll speak to the owner to have all graffiti cleaned up and then submit photos that shows that everything with the compliance chart is in order. So we'll submit those supplemental photographs. And then with respect to the plans, I will need to speak to the project architect and the owner about the outdoor seating that you noted. I don't know if that's related to pandemic seating or what the status of that is, but I will get confirmation on what the current status is. And if any changes are needed to the plan with respect to that, we'll modify the plans. But we'll also As you noted, there was an HVAC condition. We can request that a roof plan also be added to the plans.
Yeah. Yeah, I just looked quite intense amount of HVAC, so I just want to make sure it's there for a reason and want to know what it is. I also had a question, and that was, I think one of the yards on Tremont, that one of the triangular yard that is closest to the intersection is covered based on the photos.
So you're saying the yard, I'm actually looking along at the, like,
There are two triangular yards. It's the yard that is closest to that triangular intersection. Based on the photos that were provided. As it's like it has shed the.
so if do I have the ability to share screen for a second?
Sure, please, yes.
Let me share. I think this should be the approved plans. I think. So I have the cursor here. You said there was an area that's covered
Yeah, it's right there.
right here, this little angle here. Okay.
I was looking at the photo. It seemed that area has some, the photos that were submitted.
So this area here.
Yeah, that's the one.
All right, I'll get clarification on that with the architect.
Right, and so fencing, what's happening there, and that, wow, that does, so look at the mechanical space. That looks massive, and I don't know how much noise it's generating for the residential use next to it.
I will get clarification from
from
the thing. The only thing that I would just note is just that sorry, I'm not sure how to stop my share here. Here we go. All right, there, sorry. I'll get clarification. I would just note though that no violations been issued, no complaints, and the community board recommended, but we'll get clarification on the HVAC. So with respect to the plans, we'll get a roof plan. We'll confirm what the status is of the outdoor seating and the covered area.
Okay.
And then the photos with respect to any graffiti cleanup that's required. And as I noted, the community board will confirm whether they're going to proceed this week or if they're going to defer till December.
Okay. Also regarding signage, clarify if the board had any conditions regarding signage. It wasn't, if you could just clarify that also.
I can clarify it now, but I can also include it in the cover letter. I did a search for signage. There's been no reference or conditions from the board with respect to signage. I would just note that upon information and belief that signage there would comply with C1 regulations. There's just minimal signage on the diner, but I can confirm that the resolutions didn't include any conditions with respect to signs. Okay. And I'll just note that in the cover letter. Next submission.
Any other questions or comments that have been left out? I'm just looking at my notes. Okay. Let's go to the public then.
The case we're currently discussing is 8892, 8892 BZ, line 3, 3007 East Tremont Avenue, the Bronx. Should you wish to comment, dial 669-254-5252. At the prompt, you'll enter the webinar ID number 161-959-2426 and press the pound sign. At the next prompt, you will press the pound sign only. And once you're permitted in, you will press *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute as you're calling in on the phone. And if you're in the Zoom room already and wish to participate, please raise your Zoom hand, which is the little hand at the bottom of your computer screen. Once you are recognized in any format, you have 3 minutes in which to provide your testimony.
Okay. I want to schedule this for early January follow-up.
That's fine. We can be flexible with the boards.
December, December, I think. 19th is the submission.
We will be the ones who don't request a December hearing.
Thank you.
Getting cold.
See if anybody's raising hands.
No,
nobody.
Still have 36 seconds. Oops. Okay, time is up. No one has called in and no one's raised their hands.
Thank you very much. Have a good holiday.
Yes. Good holiday, everybody. Thank you.
Okay, this concludes the public hearing for November 19th, 2024. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, everybody.